To access translation of the agenda, click the top of the web page using the word English for translation into multiple languages. Meeting interpretation services are available via Zoom by clicking on the globe icon at the bottom of the screen. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Trustee Gonzalez-Hoy. Trustee Reckler or Trustee Christian, can one of you do the land acknowledgement?
Thank you. We recognize that we are, hold for just 1 second. Is that better? Yes, okay. We recognize that we are presently on the lands of the Chochenyo, Muwekma, Karkin, Ohlone peoples, and acknowledge them as the first inhabitants of the land we currently occupy.
Thank you. I would like to welcome everyone to this regular meeting of the Board of Education. This meeting will provide public comment opportunities on agenda and non-agenda items in person, through the Zoom app, and by telephone. We have changed the public comment format, which will now occur at the beginning of the meeting. Public comment will last for 1 hour and includes any agendized item. The time allotted for each speaker has also been extended to 2 minutes. If you are attending the meeting in person, you will need to submit a request to address the board form to indicate your desire to speak on an agenda item. If participating via Zoom, you will need to raise your hand by clicking on the appropriate icon in the Zoom app or by pressing *9. If accessing the meeting by phone. In order to be recognized to speak on Zoom, your hand must be raised before the public comment period begins. Due to the Brown Act, board members cannot discuss items that are not on the agenda and do not usually respond to items presented in public comment. Dr. Hurst, can we have the roll call, please?
Absolutely. President Phillips.
Here.
Trustee Clerk Smith Folds.
Good evening, everyone. Here, can you hear me? Okay, here.
Trustee Reckler.
Good evening, present.
Trustee Gonzalez-Hoy.
Good evening, present.
Trustee Christian.
Good evening, President.
Everyone's present and accounted for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to item A6, which is disclosure of items to be discussed in closed session. This evening, we have 3 items: conference with labor negotiators, public employee appointment, and public employee discipline dismissal release complaint. Is there any public comment on any of the closed session items?
No public comment at the time.
Okay, seeing that there is no public comment, we are going to recess into closed session, and we will be back out for open session at 6:30. Thank you very much. To access translation of the agenda, click the top of the web page using the word English for translation into multiple languages. Meeting interpretation services are available via Zoom by clicking on the globe icon at the bottom of the screen. I'd like to welcome everyone to this October 6th regular meeting of the Board of Education. The mission of the West Contra Costa Unified School District is to prepare students for post-secondary education and to be responsible, thinking, contributing members of our global society. We believe in public education as the most important function in a democratic society. We believe we must treat everyone with courtesy, dignity, and respect, provide safe and nurturing environments in which to learn, teach, work, and participate, serve our students by working as partners with our community to develop well-rounded, lifelong learners and contributing members of a global society. Take responsibility for our behavior and performance to ensure the highest possible achievement of all students, employees, and our school community. Provide equitable and essential communication and support for successful learning, teaching, working, and participating. Respect, celebrate, and welcome the diversity, uniqueness, and contributions of all members of our school community. The board members should not subordinate the education of children and youth to any partisan principle, group interest, or the members' own personal interest. This meeting will provide public comment opportunities on agenda and non-agenda items in person, through the Zoom app, and by telephone. We have changed the public comment format, which will now occur at the beginning of the meeting. Public comment will last for 1 hour and includes any agendized item and non-agendized item within the jurisdiction of the district. The time allotted for each speaker has also been extended to 2 minutes. If you are attending the meeting in person, you will need to submit a request to address the board form to indicate your desire to speak on an item. The form looks like this, and you have to turn it in over there. If participating via Zoom, you will need to raise your hand by clicking on the appropriate icon in the Zoom app or by pressing *9 if accessing the meeting by phone. In order to be recognized to speak on Zoom, your hand must be raised before public comment begins. Due to the Brown Act, board members cannot discuss items that are not on the agenda and do not usually respond to items presented in public comment. Dr. Hurst, do we have anything to report out of closed session?
Yes, sir, we do. We'd like to report out that it was voted 5-0 unanimously to appoint Morgan Matthews as our new Director of Research and Reporting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So we are now going to move to public comment. Again, this is public comment for everything this evening, whether it's on the agenda or not. Whether it's on the agenda or not. If you're in the building and you have not gotten one of the orange cards, please get one now before public comment begins. If you're in the Zoom or on the phone and you would like to participate in public comment, please start raising your hand now. I only see 4 hands up. There we go. Start raising them if you want to talk. Once public comment begins, the queue will stop. All right, so right now we have 6 hands. Are there any more in the Zoom? Are there any more in the audience? All right, going once, going twice, gone. Ms. Mitchell is the last person in the Zoom. The first person here in the audience is Mrs. Marie Bowles.
Do I get to take this off? To speak?
That is a great question. We can hear you with your mask on. I keep my mask on all meeting.
I'm sorry?
I said, we can hear you with your mask on.
Can or can't?
We can.
Okay.
We can.
Let me make sure I don't fog up my glasses first so I can see. Oh, okay, it started. The students at Pinole Valley High School have not had operational water fountains since school started. The students have been bringing their own water to school. The school has been providing 8.5-ounce cartons of water, which ran out last week. The only other water that the students have had is water that they have carried around in their own containers. Being teenagers, they often forget their own water bottle and end up spending the whole day at school without water. The issue that I've been trying to address in the many emails I have sent to you all is that there should be a sufficient supply of water for the students throughout their school days. After much harassing by me, 2 pallets of water were delivered to the school yesterday. The current bottles are about 16 ounces. What I have been trying to address in my many emails is whether this will continue until the water fountains are operational at the school. Providing 2 pallets of water for the number of students that attend Pinole Valley High School is not sufficient to last until the beginning of November, which is when they propose to have finished installing the new water filling units at the school. Students need water throughout their 7-hour school day to be hydrated. I've brought 3 bottles here with me. The large one is what I drink every day during my 8-hour workday. The middle one is what they've been providing since yesterday due to my continual and daily harassment and emails. This one is what they've been providing the students for their 7-hour school days. They were allowed 1 with breakfast if they eat breakfast at school, and 1 with lunch. If they requested a second because they were thirsty, they were denied. The issue should have been addressed at the time that it was decided to have school start without operational water fountains. Your student body member, Justin Trujillo, brought this up in August and it still has not been addressed. I'm asking that a genuine effort is made to ensure after tonight that a sufficient amount of water that is not rationed to the students is supplied on a daily basis until the water filling stations are operational at our schools again. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Mark Shawls.
The COVID-19 vaccines are new and novel. There have been absolutely no scientific studies that demonstrated their long-term safety. The key term is long-term. There has been absolutely no time to do long-term studies. Consequently, any claim or belief in long-term safety is not based on science. It is merely an hypothesis an educated guess with emphasis on the word guess. If COVID vaccines are truly safe and effective, then those who judge that the risk of vaccination is less than the risk of COVID infection and disease should opt for vaccination. The vaccines are not perfect. According to the CDC, breakthrough cases are rare but have occurred. The vaccinated can become infected, and subsequently, the vaccinated can infect the vaccinated. The mandate protects no one completely, and the unvaccinated should not be singled out as putting the vaccinated at risk and forced into vaccination. Those who desire their children to remain unvaccinated have done their own risk calculations and do not need a Board of Education to mandate a vaccine that has undergone absolutely zero long-term studies, especially since the demographic they want to force into vaccination has the least COVID risk. Persons at greater risk should weigh the risk and make their own decisions and should not force others into vaccination. Even if vaccinations are legal, it doesn't make them morally right or just. Slavery was once legal in the United States, and it was neither right, moral, nor just. The board does not have the moral authority to mandate vaccines, especially if they have not been studied in the long term. The authority belongs to parents who have the right to make the decisions for their children regarding vaccines that have no long-term studies to support their safety. You cannot predict any future harm that may come. You will not accept accountability, and you will not correct any injuries resulting from your mandate. It is a morally corrupt proposition to force vaccination on children when the long-term effects are still unstudied and unknown. Therefore, I strongly demand that you revoke the hastily decided, morally corrupt vaccine mandate and allow parents to decide whether or not their children should be vaccinated. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. The next person is Aceto Wilson.
Good evening. My name is Sato Wilson, Richmond High educator, UTR treasurer, executive board member, and president of the Black Educators Network, AKA BEN. The continuous silencing, bullying, and lack of clarity regarding board meeting protocols do not align with the successful outcomes for students, staff, and WCCUSD community. It is very clear that the district's position regarding race and equity, now more than ever before, is contradictory and performative. I hope that there is a public apology to Trustee Smith-Folds, Trustee Gonzalez-Hoy, Trustee Christians, and student trustees Coe and Trujillo, as it needs to be far more sincere than Trustee Reckler's lukewarm attempt last week. I applaud the trustees for their advocacy and determination and the commitment to ensuring that the district is held accountable to perform better and serve the community. School Board President Phillips, you have requested that I not email you, and you have blocked my emails. Well, I'm here in person to request that you do the right thing, display proper protocols, be more transparent, and respect your fellow board trustees and staff of this district. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. The next person is Maisha Harris-Gash.
Good evening. I am Aisha Harris-Gash, Kennedy teacher, Kennedy graduate. Silencing Black women is not an option. If Harriet Tubman allowed herself to be silenced, would she have escaped to freedom? Would she have returned to slavery's borders 13 times to lead over 70 slaves to freedom? What about Madam C.J. Walker, the first Black woman millionaire, and she was an anti-lynching advocate? What if Mary McLeod Bethune allowed herself to be silenced? The daughter of former slaves, passionate educator, founder of HBCU Bethune-Cookman University in Florida. What about my trailblazing 22 founders of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated? Their first act of self-advocacy and social justice was the Women's Suffrage March of 1913 for a woman's right to vote. And finally, what about my great aunt Sydney, who died at 102 years young 2 years ago? When she was born, she couldn't vote for 2 reasons: because she was a woman and because she was Black. I am her legacy. I am her wildest dream. I got to sit with her and watch President Barack Obama be elected president and to see her joy at not ever thinking she would see such a thing. And I am her struggle and her sacrifice. And finally, Silencing Black women is not an option. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. The next person is Gabrielle Micheletti.
Good evening, trustees and superintendent. I'm a first grade teacher at Verde Elementary and elementary director of UTR. I'm here tonight in person because I'm so incredibly disappointed in the way the leadership of this board feels they have the right to treat people. We espouse many beliefs in this district about equity, about anti-bullying, and fostering leadership in students. However, watching this school board, it appears to be all rhetoric. I'm horrified to see leadership of this board silencing our student trustees who take on this position despite having many things to do as high schoolers. I'm also dismayed to see the silencing of other board members who try to express different opinions or remind leadership the rules as to how board meetings are run. Trustees who should be respected for their expertise and experience in the classroom are instead treated as less than. This is not lost on the rest of the educators of this district. I would say I hope there will be soul searching and a realization that it is not someone's power trip that is important here. Rather, it is the thousands of students this district serves. However, I've watched these meetings long enough to know this falls on deaf ears. Instead, I am here to encourage our student trustees who did not shy away from speaking truth and sense to power, even after being shut down. Do not stop doing so, because that is the only way things will change. I'm so proud and heartened to see the work you do. I encourage others on this board to continue to exercise your voice or find your voice in power. And remember that ultimately you are here for the students. Lead this district in a way of which we can be proud, rather than as yet another burden placed on the shoulders of students, families, educators, and all staff. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We will now move to individuals in the Zoom. And once again, Kay Mitchell is the last person.
Our first public speaker is Sahida Garai. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak. I am a parent of a high schooler. I am deeply concerned about the vaccine mandates. I would like to know if Contra Costa USD is going to honor personal belief exemptions, or are we going to be boxed in and essentially forced to homeschool? I'm concerned as someone who has experienced drastic hormonal side effects because of the vaccine. And I actually have a 49-year-old cousin in Vallejo whose job mandated the vaccine, and he died from a stroke 2 weeks later on September 25th. So I refuse to get my daughter vaccinated. And it's really appalling that, you know, people are really blinded and following just left, I'm neither left nor right politically. I'm neither Republican, Democrat, progressive, whatever it is. I do not follow the media blindly or just, pro-vax propaganda. I urge you guys to please consider exemption requests for personal beliefs. Thank you.
Next public speaker is Pete Reddit. Please state your first and last name for the record. You may unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, dear board, staff, students, families. My name is Paige Reddit, father of an elementary school student in the district. I disagree with the board's hastily taken vaccine mandate decision, which appears to have been deliberately rushed with an effort to minimize discourse, despite the board's mission to, and I'm paraphrasing, provide equitable and essential communications and to respecting, celebrating, and welcoming the diversity, uniqueness, and contributions of all members. The manner which the September 30 meeting and vote were conducted was exclusive by its very nature The public is an equal stakeholder. We should expect nothing less than clear, timely, broadly accessible communications across many mediums and languages due to the rich diversity of our community. Paramount to participating in the discussion will be ample time to schedule childcare, adjust work calendars, make arrangements for kids, provide for negative tests if needed for in-person, in order to contribute to these most important discussions. Everything about the 9:30 meeting cuts against the above stated values. We expect much better going forward. The meeting was announced with around 24 hours notice. It was shared on Facebook and Twitter 15 minutes before it occurred, and the time on the flyer was incorrect, stating 3:30 p.m. This is neither equitable nor welcoming of the community, and it gives the appearance of being intentional in order to minimize discussion. I'm against the mandating of the vaccine for our young, healthy kids. I myself am vaccinated. Parents in consultation with their physicians should make these decisions. Vaccines for 12 and under have not even gotten to the FDA, CDC, or VRBPAC. So that needs to be taken into consideration, as well as the fact that vaccines for 12 to 15 are only EUA. We have limited long-term safety data. I just welcome a robust discussion going forward with love and compassion and expect better communication. Thank you.
Next public speaker is Don Gosney. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. I just wanted to touch on 3 items today, which is good. Maybe I won't run out of time before I finish speaking. Maybe. First has to do with the new mandate for employee and students over the age of 12 to be vaccinated. We all know that there are legitimate medical reasons which a person might invoke to keep from being vaccinated. Of course, those are on top of the less than legitimate medical reasons that the district will have to sort through. My bigger concern, though, are the religious exemptions and how the district will address these. It's been a while since I studied up on the Bible, the Quran, and numerous other religious doctrines, but I cannot recall reading the memo where an 11th commandment was added proclaiming that thou shalt not be vaccinated. It would be politically correct to simply accept these exemption applications based on faith that the applicant would never lie or try to sneak something by us. But what it comes down to, either the health and safety of our employees and our children, then I think it's incumbent to ensure that the unvaxxed are kept away from 100% of the kids and those employees who have been vaxxed. The second item of concern is the lack of information we get in our agenda packets. Since we, the public, are relegated to speak only once per meeting on items that may be on the agenda, how are we to voice our comments when we have no idea what may be presented? It's bad enough when we know that there's going to actually be a presentation tonight. But for example, we have on the agenda a superintendent's report with absolutely nothing in the packet to suggest the content of the presentations. For all we know, there may be the typical half dozen staff reports, or there could be just one from the superintendent. The problem is that we, the public, no longer trust the district to tell us anything about what will be discussed. Our faith in the district was flushed down the toilet a long time ago, and absolutely nothing has been done to rebuild that trust. Quite the contrary. If we're to believe that what we see in this packet, aside from the 2 hours of talk and arguing by board members, this meeting shouldn't last more than about 15 minutes. We shall see. And lastly, with regards to your recent retreat, that meeting was so disrespectful to the community. Running out of time, but I'm just to say that was the height of disrespect, and you should all be ashamed.
Our next public speaker is Kim Chamberlain. Please unmute yourself.
Good evening. I am Kimberly Chamberlain, president of IAPTE Local 21 SSA chapter. I implore the board once again to consider remote work. We are doing remote for students through the Vista Virtual Academy. We need to continue to do that for our employees also. There is no reason not to consider this. Our employees are desperately trying to serve our students. We need to continue to think in this manner. Also, listening to all of these parents this evening, teachers working in the district, I ask for the board and the district to consider getting rapid tests available for families, getting a testing center to have time to test us immediately for our children that are coughing, runny noses, anything such as that, to ease the mind of our parents and the students and the staff in an immediate manner would be very helpful. I had numerous calls today from employees where their students are walking around with runny noses. They're sending them home. The children are not getting an education this way. And it is not that the parents are sitting in a room where there could be positive tests coming out from those people that obviously are sicker than those children are, because they are sitting there looking at them with fevers. Please start considering getting rapid tests available for our families at the school sites. Thank you.
Our next public speaker is Joanna Pace. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. This evening I come wearing two different hats. First, as the Chair of the Board of Trustees of Open Door United Methodist Church, which is the immediate neighbor to the Adams Middle School site. We'd like to thank the district employees who have come and the district contractors who've come and removed much of the brush that's there, particularly on the northeast side of the property. And we look forward to continued attention to the perimeter of Adams so that we can reduce the number of vandalism incidents there. So thank you to those operations employees and contractors, and to the superintendent who helped them get focused on that. Secondly, logistics. I haven't attended a meeting in about a month, and so I have a few suggestions for the logistics now that we're hybrid. Again, in an effort to make the meeting as equitable and accessible as possible, I want to think, we need to know the number of participants. Board member Smith-Fold has put into the chat how many participants she sees in the Zoom room. Now, those of us who are in Zoom need to know how many participants are actually in the room. So if somebody could periodically just announce this is how many people are in the room, that would make the experience for everyone as much like being in the room as possible. Also, there are 4 or 5 or 6 of you for whom there's glare around your heads, so it's hard to see your expressions because your camera is aimed right at the overhead lights on the stage. And so if there's something that can be done to reduce that, then it'll be easier for audience members to sort of understand how board members and the superintendent are feeling during the meeting. Thank you.
Our next public speaker is Kenitra Mitchell. Please unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Good evening. My name is Kenitra Mitchell. I'm the community school director at Betty Reed Soskin Middle School, former teacher at John F. Kennedy High School, and product of West Contra Costa Unified School District. I just want to say I'm very disappointed in the continued disrespect from the leadership of this board towards student trustees and other trustee members, educators in the district, as well as district staff. I'm asking that you take a moment and think about how you would feel if you were silenced and you were treated this way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes public comment. Thank you to everyone who called in or who spoke in person. We are now going to move to B4, which is agenda review and adoption. Dr. Hurst, do you have anything you'd like to take off the agenda?
Yes, sir. We would like to remove action item E3, professional services contract with Capital Advisors, please.
Thank you very much. Tonight, Trustee Reckler is leading us off. Trustee Reckler, is there anything you need to pull off? Or would like to pull off consent?
No, no, thank you, nothing.
Trustee Smith Folds?
No, I don't have anything.
Christian?
No, I don't have anything.
Gonzalez Hoy?
Thank you. No, I don't have anything.
Ko?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Trujillo?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda minus item E3?
So moved, President Phillips.
Moved by Gonzalez Hoy. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Gonzalez Hoy, seconded by Christian. We just had the discussion, so Trustee Reckler, can you start the vote?
Sure can. Reckler, yes.
Smith Folds, yes.
Christian, yes.
Gonzalez, oh yes.
Co, yes.
Trujillo, yes.
Phillips, yes. The motion carries. Thank you. We're now going to move on to item B5, approval of minutes for August 30, 2021. And we're just going to stay in the same order. Any corrections, Reckler?
No, nothing.
No, nothing.
No, I don't have anything.
Gonzalez Hoy?
President Phillips, the only thing I had was on item E for the next scheduled Board of Education meeting, Lavanya is spelled wrong. So I just wanted to point that out, but that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We could get the spelling corrected. Ko
Nothing. Thank you.
and Trujillo?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Excuse me, President Phillips, I did find something. I forgot to say it.
Okay,
Under comments from the board, it is under my comments, it's not standard reports, it was standing reports. So it says standard reports, it needs to say standing reports.
okay. Okay. Any other corrections, board? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes with the corrections raised?
So moved, President Phillips.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Okay, moved by Gonzalez Hoy, seconded by Christian to approve the minutes with the corrections raised. Trustee Reckler, could you start?
Reckler, yes.
Smith Folds, yes.
Christian, yes.
Gonzalez, oh yes.
Co, yes.
Trujillo, yes.
Phillips, yes. The motion carries. Thank you. We're now going to move on to item C, which is our consent calendar. Can I have a motion to adopt the consent calendar?
So moved, President Phillips.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Gonzalez Hoy, seconded by Christian. Reckler?
Reckler, yes.
Smith Folds, yes.
Christian, yes.
Gonzalez, oh yes.
Co, yes.
Trujillo, yes.
Phillips, yes. Motion carries. We are now going to move on to item D, which is the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Can we bring the presentation up, please? Before we begin our superintendent presentation, we wanted to take the opportunity to recognize and honor all those members in our school community that have gone on and passed away. And if we can go to the next slide, I'd just like to share the names with the community and the board, please. So we wanted to take the time to remember retiree WCCUSD Chief of Police, Rudy or Rudolph Gonzalez. He passed away. Mr. Gonzalez worked for over 36 years for the WCCUSD Police Department. We also like to remember retiree assistant principal from Kennedy High School, Gladys Chance Perry. She passed away. Ms. Perry worked for the district for over 29 years. We also want to take this moment to remember retiree community worker Pauline Alexander. She passed away. Ms. Alexander worked for over 23 years in the community as a community worker at Neestrom Elementary School. Additionally, we want to remember retiree special education employment specialist Janet Scovell. She passed away. Ms. Scovell worked for over 17 years as a special education employment specialist for the School to Careers Department. We just like to say that our hearts go out and our prayers go out to the family and the friends, the loss of their loved ones. Thank you for allowing me to share. Next slide, please. We wanted to start off by just sharing an important week. We can go ahead to the next slide. And the next one, please. We wanted to bring this to you, and what we wanted to do also is to let the board know that we wanted to bring a resolution to you at the next board meeting, but our California Department of Education encourages districts across California to recognize the week of October the 10th as the week of school administrators. So we will ask that we could bring that resolution to the board at the next board meeting, but we wanted to just acknowledge about this week and honor all of our administrators. And if you can go to the next slide. What I will say is that so many of us in the organization are working extremely hard, all of our employees from classified to certificated. And as before, I wanted to just share as your superintendent, I thank you for your hard work from the opening of school to all the obstacles to get us here to this moment and to all of our students as well. And I want to acknowledge that everyone is working hard also. But since this is a recognition for our administrators, I wanted to just spotlight our administrators and just share some of the work that I know everybody across the organization is involved in. But I want to just highlight the work that our administrators have done from the planning when I first was hired here as the superintendent to reopen schools 100% in person, to all the conversations that we had in our listening sessions and them helping to plan with communications, internal and external communications, having conversations about COVID response. And I want to just share that we have asked our administrators and our leaders to do so much in this area, especially around facilitating those conversations with families and the students throughout the registration process. So we wanted to acknowledge their hard work there. Our administrators have also been deeply involved in conversations, as is everyone else, but we want to recognize them for being involved in the conversations with the equity audit and providing the feedback, the reorganization chart as well. Staffing, I wanted to just highlight all of our administrators because they have stepped up in a large way, and some of our administrators still are currently in classrooms, acting as the teachers, and they're doing so much at their school sites. So what I wanted to do this evening, board and public, is just spotlight our administrators. And again, I want to acknowledge that everyone is doing such a great job and working hard. But this week of October the 10th through October the 16th is designated across the state of California as School Administrator Week. And as I said, I do want to bring back a resolution to the board, if that's okay, just to memorialize this as Administrator Week. Next slide. And just to give you an overview of administrators and who we're recognizing, it goes from the superintendent to all of our associate superintendents, assistant superintendents, our principals, our assistant principals, all of our leaders that's at the central office, from curriculum, our educational leaders, adult education leaders as well. You can see our school business leaders and assessment leaders. Anyone that's leading in a management or leadership capacity, this time is set aside for all of you. And if you're listening, we just say that we honor you for all of your hard work. Next slide. And again, just to call out all of the administrators, again, all of our school principals and assistant principals, we honor you for that week. All of our associate superintendents, executive directors and directors, we honor you for your hard work. And board, again, we'll come back at the next board meeting just to memorialize this. And thank you again, administrators, for allowing us to just recognize you for who you are and the work that you're doing. Thank you. Next slide. And this really leads into the conversation I wanted to engage with our board and our public about mission critical work. And we have had this conversation with board members, but I really wanted to have this with the public so you can understand what we are doing in the board meetings and how we're presenting content. And we define mission critical work as the essential work as part of the district to keep the normal operations running. And I will share with all of you that there is much to be done in our learning community, a lot of work, but we have defined some very essential things that's critical for normal operations. And I just want to call those out to you. COVID response is mission critical work. And I think we have heard from a lot of community members and a lot of employees within the district about why this is critical for us. The testing, the registration process has been an issue and a concern, and we're trying to resolve this. Notification processes, our contact tracing, and our cleaning protocols especially have all been highlighted since we started this school year. And it's all mission critical. There has been conversations about our COVID dashboard as well, and making sure that we have that in place so we can inform all of our internal and our external stakeholders. Mission critical work. I have shared since I've been here about the equity audit and the importance of us really digging into every department and all data types, and that leading to the strategic planning process, and that is essential work for us. We've been engaging in the reorganization of our district, which has been mission critical, and adding positions. Facilities and operations, from filters to water bottle fillers, to mask, to other pieces in operations as well, as mission critical. The absence of data warehousing and making sure we have that in place, and accountability in a data dashboard, mission critical work. Been a lot of conversation with our internal and external staff and stakeholders about communications and how we need to improve our internal and external communications. And a lot has been shared with me about the website. And we consider communications a big issue and is mission critical as well. Safety, we're looking at social, emotional, and intellectual safety and physical safety of our students, and ensuring that all of our campuses across our district are safe. That's mission critical. There's been a lot to be said also about the Vista Virtual Academy and making sure that is up and running as it should be for our students. It's mission critical. Fiscal solvency. since I've been here, has been the conversation is mission critical. And then as we have learned last week in a special board meeting, the vaccine mandate. And then I wanted to also highlight staffing last, because that plays into all areas. And understanding that we have been shortened staff since I started here, from teachers to TK aides in the classrooms to custodial staff and much more, and that has played into every area. What I will share is I appreciate all the emails that I've received, all your patience as well, understanding this is hard work, it is mission critical work, and all of you across our organization are working hard to contribute to all of this work. It's not just the administrators, it's all of us. But it is taking a lot of our time, and we're working around the clock to make all of this happen for our students. And as I shared, there's other work that needs to be done in our district, but we want to define this as the mission critical work, the essential work that needs to be done. And I wanted to share all of this with you, board, and for those who are listening, because there are many other topics that need to be done across the district. But what we are bringing to the board and to the community right now is mission critical work. So what you're going to see us over the next several board meetings is to really focus laser-like on not all of these topics, but a few of these topics, and we'll be presenting them to the board and to the public. Not to say other topics won't come later. Of course, as I said, there's other work, especially around teaching and learning, and other important pieces that have been shared with me since I've been here that needs to happen, and it will happen. But again, I want to be very clear with everyone that we're only bringing a few mission critical items, and we're fine tuning these items and working together to make them better. So what you're going to hear tonight is staff reporting out some mission critical work around communications. Now, I've heard a lot about communications, and we want to get better. We have a new director of communications that's here with us tonight, Orion Phillips. He is going to speak to us and about his team and how we're going to improve internal and external communications. Another topic you're going to hear about tonight, of course, is around COVID response. That's a big topic in our community, in our learning community right now. We're going to have Mr. Booker present on COVID response, and also the Director of Technology is going to be speaking also on our COVID dashboard, and that's Tracy Logan. And then finally, we're going to have a staffing report from our own HR chief, Marcy Williams. She's going to provide an update on our staffing. And again, we're going to focus laser-like each board meeting, presenting a few mission critical items, but I wanted to be very clear with the board and the public on what we're going to be doing over the next several board meetings. So with that, if we go to the next slide, we're going to turn it over to Ryan Phillips.
Before we do that, board, what I heard is, I think, 4 different presentations. I think that's what I heard. 3, okay. And then I'm including what you just did as a presentation, right? So I'm gonna include that as the 4th one. And so board, what I'm gonna ask you all to do is to ask 4 questions, but to ask 4 questions, you don't have to, but to ask 4 questions for each presentation. So for each presentation between the 7 of us, that basically ends up being like 28 questions, right? And I know some people may use some and may not, but in order to make sure that everybody has an equal opportunity and that you are able to ask questions for each one. So Dr. Hurst just gave a presentation. He talked about mission critical work. So we can start with that one. And then when you guys are done asking Dr. Hurst the questions that you have of him, then we could start the communications presentation. And then you'll do 4 more for that presentation as well, if you so choose. So Reckler, we're starting with you this evening. Do you have any questions for what Dr. Hurst just presented?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay. Trustee Smith-Folds, do you have any questions for what Dr. Hurst just presented?
In your presentation, you talked about virtual school as a mission critical topic. Can you speak more to what you're going to be talking about in virtual school as a mission critical topic? Are we going to address the inequities that are being found? What are we going to talk about specifically about virtual school in your slide?
So what we want to do is we really want to listen to the public, to board members. I receive a lot of feedback from board members and from community members. And we really take our cue off of those emails and the feedback that's coming to our feedback through our communications director also. I think one of the big pieces is the wait list. And I think the inequities conversation has come up as well. So to really answer your question, Trustee Smith-Folds, we are really taking our lead off of questions and comments that we're getting from all sources. And then what I do is we sit down with the executive team and we talk about the presentation and what needs to go in the presentation. So it's really driven by the feedback that we're receiving.
Would you be willing to give or to express a tentative calendar when other topics will come to the board?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for that. And then the data, since we were talking about under your slide, we were talking about the vaccination mandate. Do you have the data that was asked for last week that was going to be brought back to us today? That data included the number of staff positives and how many of those staff positives were vaccinated, the number of class closures, how many were middle school and high school, of the 15,000 kids, how many are already vaccinated, 15,000 being 12 and above. Do we have any of that that was going to come back to us today?
We do have most of that data and trying to figure out the best way that we can get that to you. We have talked about all those questions and we've collected most of the data and we can definitely get that to you.
And the final question under your report had about schools, it had about safety, and it had about physical safety and social and emotional safety. Under social emotional safety, I know the first 6 weeks of the school we had dedicated to social emotional health, and then the students were all supposed to get a IEP of sorts. Do we know if that was completed? And under physical safety, does every school that was supposed to get a third CSS have that?
Okay, I'm going to ask if Lucia Martin could weigh in on that first question because it ties into academics. And then if Mr. Booker could tie into the second question because it ties into CSSs.
Trustee Smith-Folds, your question was around the SEL curriculum and if all schools in fact have the curriculum?
No, ma'am. When we first started at the beginning of the year, we said the first 6 weeks was going to be dedicated to social emotional learning, a slow kind of reboot with the children in the classroom. It's going to be a big concentration on social emotional. And then there was going to be an IEP type of individual learning for each student. So the parents and the teachers would all know where the child was and where they have an expectation of their growth for the year. I'm wondering if that got completed.
Mm-hmm. Students just completed their STAR assessments. We also had a delay in the universal screener, which is going to be used as some of that data to determine what students need. So at this time, no, that has not happened.
Thank you. And Mr. Booker, about our third CSSs on campuses?
My mic is not working. As far as the hiring of the CSSs, we are currently in the process of hiring those. We have hired 3 supervisors for Kennedy, De Anza, and Pinole. We picked the finalists for Richmond High. So those positions will be filled. I know that El Cerrito and Hercules are upcoming for interviews. And we are posting for those replacements for those sites, as well as the bodies that we need for each site.
Thank you, Mr. Booker. And can you just give me a list of the schools that don't have the 3rd CSS at some point, please?
I'm sorry, can you say that again? I didn't hear you.
Yes, sir. Is it possible for me to have a list of the schools that do not have a 3rd CSS currently?
Yes, we can get that for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Smith Folds. Mr. Christian? Yeah, to the report, there's going back to the COVID. Will the pool of testing be led by our district nursing team, and will it be led only for students, or will it include the classroom teacher into the classes pool?
Yeah, since that's very specific to COVID response, I'm going to ask if Mr. Booker could respond, please.
Yes, we're going to cover that in my presentation, but if you wanted the answer now, I can give it to you.
Okay.
Or did you want to wait for the presentation?
Yeah.
Yes, you want to wait for the presentation?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then how often, Dr. Hurst, how often will we do poll testing for each classroom or schools, and what will be the follow-up if someone tests positive?
Same response, trustee. I'm going to present it in my presentation unless you wanted the answer now.
You guys are doing it.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you, sir. Gonzalez Hoy.
Thank you. I don't have any questions for Dr. Hurst. I just have them for Mr. Booker later.
Cole.
Dr. Hurst, I would like to ask, what exactly was the social, emotional, and physical safety offered? I believe you mentioned for the first 6 weeks of schooling, but I don't think I know much about that. So I'd just like to ask what it was.
Yes, Ms. Martin, can we speak about the social emotional that's been happening?
So there were 4 different offerings for social emotional learning curriculum that should be implemented at school. So principals were able to select the curriculum. This is something that is new this year in terms of social emotional learning curriculum being implemented at all schools. And so I'm actually trying to pull up the names of the actual programs that we offered. They're all online. And what we asked is that each school implement for the first, for 30 minutes during the school, 30 minutes per week, and then that at least 10 minutes per day that there are circles or some form of interventions in place to do restorative justice circles or caring school community circles at the beginning of class every day. And some schools were doing this through their advisory time. And then in elementary schools, it was just circles in the morning. So the curriculum that we ended up purchasing was Sanford Harmony, Second Step, and School Connect were the 3 that we chose to have principals decide on which one they wanted. And so each school now has those 3 different curriculums. And then regarding this curriculum, will it also be incorporated to staff members? For example, they would have their interventions or just have like little circles during their meetings to address these sorts of curriculum or ideas? Last week at principal, well, actually Tuesday at principal meeting and last week at principal meeting, we actually took principals through a protocol around restorative justice and what it should look like with their staff and questions that they should be asking staff. We don't actually have a curriculum for principals or for leaders, but we've been supporting and implementing practices that should be followed with their own staff and giving them the protocols to support that.
Okay, thank you. That is all my questions.
Thank you. Trujillo?
Yes. The first question I have, I believe it's either for Dr. Hurst or Ms. Williams, but how will staffing staffing being worked on be a part of the mission critical? Because from my understanding, it's more of or is the hiring process just, would it be like, for example, would it be more job fairs or things of that nature?
Yes, I think Ms. Williams could speak to that. I'm not sure, Ms. Williams, if you want to wait till your presentation to talk about that, if you want to
Yeah.
speak to it now.
Whatever you prefer. I can. Do you want me to?
Yeah, I can wait till the presentation.
Okay.
Thank you. And then my second question is, will the social emotional safety continue to happen throughout the school year? Because I heard it was only for the first 6 weeks. Will this continue?
I can give you a short answer. Absolutely, it will continue.
Thank you. And are there people making sure that this does happen in schools and that there is time for social emotional learning for students? Because, for example, at my school, we do not have advisory or homeroom, and I'm not sure about other schools. I believe some do, but I personally don't remember receiving social emotional learning. That's just me. Well, yeah.
Ms. Martin, can you talk about the accountability around social emotional learning and any expectations you have?
I mean, it could be that the school has just received the curriculum or just started implementing it because it took a process to actually upload all student IDs. So I wouldn't say that it's not going to happen, Trustee Trujillo, but Trujillo, I wouldn't say that it's not going to happen, but I would say that it should be happening. And we are informing principals that it should be 30 minutes per week and that there should be some form of circles in the morning, at least for 10 minutes during class periods. So we can follow up with principals to ensure that they're actually using the curriculum and that it's being implemented across all of our schools. However, we actually just discussed this again on last Tuesday. So I will follow up for you.
Thank you. I would appreciate that. I would want more, accountability that this social emotional learning and the curriculum is being taught. And my last question is there, I guess not this curriculum, but this sort of training for principals and administration who will be responsible for, I guess, teaching this to staff? Because I feel like it's important for it to happen at the top level. And of course, that kind of sets the example for it to move down.
There is training for principals. There's also training on the curriculum that's going to be offered as well for all of the curriculums that we decided to give licenses to. And so there will be training. And we are doing something at every principal meeting around social emotional learning and also on restorative practices. And we've contracted out to also have someone help support principals with professional development in that area.
Thank you. Those are all of my questions.
Thank you. Next presentation.
Good evening, Board of Education trustees, district students, families, staff, educators, and members of the public. My name is Ryan Phillips, and I'm the Communications Director for the West Contra Costa Unified School District. I've officially been on the job for 2 weeks now, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to improve communication to our families, students, educators, and staff. Next slide, please. Today's update includes information on staffing for our department and the district website. Make sure to follow us on social media where we regularly post about great things happening in our district. Right now, we have some great content celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month, and you can find that and share on Facebook and Instagram. Next slide, please. So here are the members of our communications team. Rachelle Forrest is our communications manager who manages district communication tools, trainings, and messaging. Samantha Beltran is our communications coordinator who manages social media and the website. And Nixon Diaz, also a new hire, is our communications assistant, supporting us with events, organization, and he's also learning how to manage the website, among other duties. Along with our additional staff, we're working with communications consulting firm Nichols Strategies. I'm looking forward to leading our team through the professional development modules provided by Nichols Strategies and develop a strategic communication plan that coincides with Dr. Hurst's strategic plan. Next slide, please. Moving on to our website. We've heard from members of the community and leadership in the district that our current website is not meeting our needs. Users have told us that the site is disorganized and information can be difficult to find. We need a functional, easy-to-use website that serves as the hub for district activity and the go-to place for important information. It is crucial we take a strategic approach to any changes, identify what's working and what isn't working, and the goals that we want to achieve. The district communications team is currently working on a plan to improve the website that includes surveying stakeholders to better understand their experience and what they want from a website. We're taking a look at the schools in our district who are using our platform, Blackboard, well, and have good websites so we can learn from them. We recently conducted a search engine optimization analysis of the district site, which helped identify links that are broken, pages that are out of date, and other ways we can improve the site, such as optimizing headers. We're not waiting for a plan to be in place, however, to get started with improvements. In the past week, we've made extensive improvements to the homepage, including taking down outdated information and duplicative links and text, limiting the number of items that were clogging up the page, and we made the district's social media feeds easier to find. Next slide, please. We know that internal communication is essential for our school leaders, educators, and district staff. And we also recently made some updates to the internal COVID page. Administrators now have easy access to all the necessary COVID resource forms, the COVID Administrator Handbook, community notification letters, safety and emergency operations overviews, travel guides, and more. This page is being updated regularly as more information becomes available. We're also working to streamline requests to our department and improve service to school sites that with tools that are also available through the intranet. We are developing school-specific letterhead, a district PowerPoint template that is customizable, and a service request form for school staff and departments, which is a resource for folks to get in touch with our communications team around services that we can offer. Next slide, please. Some items that we are working on right now. We made some improvements to the Board of Education page, making the address and Zoom information for board meetings easier to find, and making sure contact information for trustees is up to date. Our next step is to create individual pages for each trustee with a photo, contact information, and bio, so members of the public can more easily be in contact. Though we have not heard complaints, or many complaints, that is, that trustees are difficult to contact, we know that easily accessible information around public meetings is essential for robust public participation. We received feedback to feature meeting agendas on this page as well, which we will include. We added a new COVID-19 information page with more resources, created a frequently asked questions page, and a questions from the community page. This is also where we will include updates, to the vaccine mandate. There are ways we can support schools by creating materials centrally that benefit all of our school communities, and we in the communications department can place on school websites through the use of a universal community tool created by our communications department that schools are familiar with, called the Digital Backpack. We're also working closer with school sites to ensure they have timely and correct information on their school websites. One recent example is the school bell schedules. We're working on creating a unified bell schedule template for all sites and uploading to the school websites. We're also working on creating a master page on the district website where all bell schedules will live for easy access for students, families, and the community. Also, the communication plan is another essential item that's in progress. Our goal is to have a much improved website that the community is proud of by the end of this calendar year. We will update you and share with you the details of our redesign plan as we roll it out. Thank you.
Mr. Phillips, does that conclude your presentation?
It does. Thank you, President Phillips.
You got a great name. You really do. Board.
You as well. Thank you.
Board, 4 questions for Mr. Phillips, starting with Reckler.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. Do I understand correctly that the timeline is the end of this calendar year, December 31st?
Correct.
Okay, awesome. How much of your work will involve the school websites as well?
The school websites are definitely a part of our plan. We have different team members who assist in training, and also we're going to have our own team members trained further in the Blackboard platform so we can assist schools with their websites. We would like all of our schools to be using the same platform so we can offer that support to them. But school websites are an essential part of this, and our team has been researching the school websites to better understand who our all-star users are that we can learn from.
Okay, and then just to be clear again, so then the district website is the December 31st deadline. Schools may not be.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Reckler.
Okay, thank you. Have you given any thought, or will you give thought to changing the platform? In other words, can Blackboard support the district's needs, do you think?
That's part of our research. So Blackboard is a platform that's used by school districts across the country. So we need to make sure that it is the right platform for us as we move forward with this. So that is part of our research as well, to make sure that Blackboard is our way to go. And I've been in contact with our Blackboard representatives as well.
Okay, final question is, does your department own feedback at WCCUSD.net?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Trustee Smith Folds.
Thank you. So I have a couple of questions. Can you tell me exactly how many different languages we speak or are spoken in this district?
Not off the top of my head, no, sorry.
Okay. What have you been told are some of the communication issues?
Some of the main communication issues that I've been made aware of are getting information out to the public in a timely way, making sure the public has easily accessible information that they don't have to search for, and that just the website has been very hard to navigate, to find forms or anything that someone might need quickly. Those are a few of the main issues that I've heard around communication.
And who sets the standards for the school's website pages? Who sets that standard? Like, everyone should have this. This is what we want. This is what we need to make sure is on there. Who sets that standard?
Right now, I don't believe that there is someone who has set that standard previously around school websites, but that is the job of the communications department. So that's up to us to help to reach out to schools to make sure that their websites are in order and functioning, and that they're at their best, basically.
And you are including ASL when you are talking about language and communication. That is something that you're centering, correct?
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with ASL.
American Sign Language?
Of course, of course.
Okay, and then on your website page, is there going to be something like a universal page that says, we've experienced a lot of outages? Is there going to be something that says, okay, these are the schools that have power outages, these are the schools that have closures, these are the lockdowns? When I was a kid in Alabama, let me just give you a little context. When we would look across the bottom of our TV screen to know who was not going to go to school today because it was a snow day. So in this district, we have power outages. In this district, we have lockdowns. In this district, we have school closures for other reasons. Is there going to be a place on the website that gives that information quickly to parents? Because, you know, we don't have the little scroll anymore across the bottom of a TV screen.
Right now, our process for alerting families around power outages or other activities at their school is to get in touch with the principal to come up with a communication that goes out to families immediately and to do a robocall. So we really focus on the school community that's being affected.
Okay, thank you for those. Those are all the questions I have right now.
Mr. Christian?
I don't have any question at this time.
Thank you, sir. Gonzalez Hoy.
Thank you. I have one question for you, Mr. Phillips. Thank you for your presentation. Some educators also like to use websites for communication with families and students. Will we also provide a template for teachers to be able to use for next year?
I'm sorry, sir. Can you explain a little more?
I'm sorry.
What sort of websites would they be wanting to create?
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of teachers that share their own classroom website with families and students to upload things or information, communications. Like sometimes the coursework for the year, et cetera, especially for secondary sites. But many elementary sites do it as well. But I've never seen the district provide a template for educators to be able to just utilize and not create on their own, and for consistency purposes as well, right? So my question is, would we be able to provide a template for educators, just like we would provide a template for sites to utilize?
We would absolutely love to do that, and I'd be interested in learning more about how we can support our educators in the classroom with tools that we create centrally. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That was my only question.
Co?
So with the new COVID-19 resource page, with a special hyperlink of COVID information, will that be a website page shown in the drop-down menu from our homepage on WCCUSD.net?
So that's been a discussion among our team about where that should live. And just to make it as accessible as possible, I think that's a really good idea to have it from the drop-down menu. So that's something that we're discussing, where things will live on the homepage for good. So one thing we did do recently is we moved the dashboard to a permanent place on the website. You can find that above the social media feed. So we're always exploring ways that we can make information more accessible to the public and make it easier to find as well. And we're always willing to hear feedback.
And so while you mentioned a website page for the public to have a picture and contact information for the trustees, will there also be a website page dedicated to the executive cabinet? For example, people like you that are new, or Nixon Diaz, I believe, was the new hiree.
It's certainly something we can explore. Thank you.
And will the communications team send out information to parent emails and student emails, perhaps like surveys, links to these new resources and pages? I know that students particularly have the @wccschools.org special email.
So we have a weekly message that goes out to the community on Friday. And we did announce the new COVID-19 page in that message. And we'll continue to think and explore ways that we can get the word out to everyone in our different areas around the latest information, especially around COVID.
And lastly, my question is for YouTube videos that are uploaded onto YouTube of our board meetings, is there an effort to provide subtitles in particularly different languages onto YouTube so that people can read it if they're unable to attend and listen to the interpretation?
Thank you. That's a great idea, and we'll take that into account and see how possible that is. We're working on our process now of making sure the videos are uploaded faster, and so the public can access it quicker as well. And we'll definitely explore ways that we can make sure that gets out to more members of the public as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That is all.
Trujillo?
Yes, first, thank you for the work you're doing. I think I can definitely tell that the website is more there. Everything is easier to find. My first question would be, I don't know if this is possible, but can student trustee emails be under their bio or on the website like other trustees or no?
Thank you for the question. So we have.
I'm just gonna jump in.
Okay.
Because the student trustees are minors, so you guys need to have a conversation about putting their information on the website offline.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Could each site's website, or could it be made sure that each site's website has a place where they have their area trustees info? Because I believe each area has a trustee that represents that area. And I don't believe that their info is on the school websites for their area.
That's a great idea, and we'll take that into account. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have another question, but no, I guess that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Trujillo. We can go to the next presentation. Good evening, Board Trustees. This evening, I'm going to talk about COVID updates, our current COVID updates. And I want to emphasize that these are the most current updates to our COVID response. First slide. So with LSA Laboratories, we started with them on September 13th. And we wanted to make sure that we would have a one-time registration process. They have worked on this process. They continue to work on this process, and we are almost there. So in terms of the actual process, September 26th, we went to the one-time registration process. So once you registered, you just had to make the one appointment, and that allowed you to get appointments after that date. If you had registered prior to, you still need to go in the portal and fill out the consent form and schedule that one appointment so you can be scheduled for the rest of the year. So that took place on the 26th. We have continued to give guidance and instruction to the sites as far as the registration process goes. And we have told them, the principals, meaning that we are in the process of going paperless as of October 18th. But we're giving them a continued help and guidance up to that point and even after that point. So as far as the GVP portal goes, is the portal that they use for their process. The updated process included removing the scheduling weekly. Prior to, you had to make an appointment every week, and it was a cumbersome process. So they've eliminated that. They've also eliminated where there was a section for uninsured folks that they were asking for a social security number. That is no longer the process for that. You don't need a social security number for that. They are also in the process and finalizing this step where they are giving us updated registration forms that will take you directly to the link so you can sign the consent form, as opposed to going through the profile and going through that whole process, going straight to the link and completing that information so you can be scheduled for the rest of the year for testing. As far as the testing process goes, if you have not registered, you still have to register. Like I talked about in previous meetings, this is a requirement that they have to do. But LSA has done a number of things with regard to helping with that process. Some of the things that they've done is that they have had numerous Zoom sessions and continue to have Zoom sessions, which I'll talk about on the next slide. But they have these sessions for the families for each school that you can attend to get information regarding the registration. They also, at each site that is testing between 8 and 9 in the morning, because testing usually doesn't start until 9, they have an information session that they give those sites that will help the families register their young person. So they've done those things and they continue to do it. But also we have talked about doing collaborations with some of our union partners with regard to having a in-person staff registration form or fair where families can come out to a site and go through the registration process. LSA has agreed to do that in person. And you would have a number of computers. You would have people there to instruct you through the process, and they would walk you through that one-time registration process. So we are doing that in collaboration with some of our partners. So we have not finalized the date, but it will be on a Saturday. As far as listening to not only the public, but to the board trustees, we have solicited the help of principals and developed an advisory committee that we meet on Thursdays, and we talk about all things COVID and look at solutions for some of the issues that we're having. As a matter of fact, we have a meeting tomorrow. As far as I met with CDPH's mobile med team, and we are in conversation of adding additional supports that can help us with the testing, specifically dealing with symptomatic and response testing. They have offered a number of bodies that can help us with that process. So we are finalizing those talks so we can get symptomatic and response testing going. As far as the CDPH's pooled testing, I met with a representative on Monday, and we talked about the pool testing process. And I'm just going to go over the pool testing process briefly, but the process is where they test a classroom anywhere from 5 to 25 students. They test that, it's a self-swab. It's put in a communal tube, and that communal tube is then sent to the lab for analyzation. That testing does not include the teacher in that process. So if there is a positive test in that pool, they will come back because we will get the results within 24 hours. They will come back on a Wednesday. So if we took the test on Monday, they would come back with the results on Tuesday, and Wednesday they would follow up with that class, testing each individual that was in that class through a rapid test to kind of figure out if there were additional people that may have been affected. This process we are still finalizing some things in terms of how they, what kind of cadence they will have in terms of testing and the personnel that will be needed to train our folks with regard to the self-testing. We also are looking at some other districts that do self-testing. I believe Los Altos is one of them. that we will talk to see how their process is going as well. If we finalize things this week, the testing will take around 10 days to get up and running. There is a consent process or a registration process that they have to go through, but that registration process does not require that they give insurance information, but there is a consent form that has to be completed. And then, like I said, about Saturday's registration help form for families, I have a meeting on Friday to discuss this, and hopefully we can get this done fairly quickly so we can get more people registered. But just to give you an idea of our numbers, as of today, we have 16,352 people that have registered in the system. We average on a weekly basis around a little over 5,000 people per week on the testing. Next slide, please. So we are, like I talked about, we are talking the LSA, their Zoom information sessions and frequently asked questions. They do this every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and this is the schedule that is on the screen. And in this session, they go over the registration process in great detail. And then they have a FAQ session after the registration process. This is also translated in Spanish during these Zoom session meetings. Next slide, please. As far as our dashboard goes, our new changes include weekly and cumulative testing data by site and overall. What's important to know is that most updated information comes from the principals. So we have really focused on giving our principals the information that they need so they can get us the information through our contact tracing team. It reflects the cases confirmed by 3:30 p.m. If after that time, it's reflected on the next business day. And then finally, you will see the numbers changed based on false positives. So we have had a number of false positives, but as of today, we've had 31 false positives throughout the district. And how we find those out is that we, on a positive rapid test, we follow that up with a PCR test, and that is sent to the lab. And those results are usually given to us within a 48-hour period. Next slide, please. So vaccine clinics, these are the schools that are currently registered. As a matter of fact, we had a vaccination clinic at Pinot High School today. And the schools that are registered with the county health department are De Anza, El Cerrito, Greenwood Academy, Helms, Hercules, Korematsu, Middle College, Pinot Middle, Pinot Valley High School, Betty Reed Soskins, and Richmond High. Alvarado Adult School, Dijon, Hercules, Kennedy, and the transition program at Vista are currently working with the county health to finalize their dates. This is one of the mitigation strategies that we will use in the near future to reduce the spread. And we hope that we can, as far as the process goes, make this as an easy process to get people vaccinated. So with that, I open it up to any questions that you may have.
Trustee Reckler?
Yes, thank you for your presentation. Do you have the number of families registered by school?
We can get you that information. You talking about in terms of the total number that I gave you earlier?
Yeah, so you said that you have 16,352 registered, which is impressive, but I'm sure that we have some very high-performing schools and we probably have some very low-performing schools. So what I'm trying to get you to do is to dig into the families that, the schools that have the least amount of families. So I think that's pretty critical information.
Yeah, I can definitely get you that information, and we have looked at that information as well. In some of the low-performing schools, we spend a lot of time in terms of getting them to understand the registration process and helping them register their families.
Do you have a SCOW on your COVID response team? You have 5 principals. Do you have a SCOW that works with parents?
Currently, we don't, but we are looking into that. We are looking at some other people being involved. We don't want the committee to be too big, but we are looking at those avenues as well.
Okay. Next question is the false positive process. So highly disruptive, throws everything in turmoil. What processes can you change to be accurate, but still expediting the process? And is there a particular type of false positive test that is more reliable than others by brand name or?
So I wish that I had LSA here today because they would be able to answer that. I don't want to answer that and give you some inaccurate information. But I can tell you that our process is a pretty good process in terms of testing. Now, there are a lot of factors that go into a false positive, especially with a rapid test. And that's why we followed up with a PCR. And we have even done where if there's a faint positive, we've done a second additional rapid test. And if that is still inconclusive, we do a PCR test behind that and follow up with that PCR test. And so we are getting those results back in a 48-hour period. Our contact tracers are following up with those families. If it turns out to be a false positive, we are making sure that not only the person that it was a false positive for returns to school, but the close contacts as well.
Finally, I've heard that principals don't always get PCR tests back. Any thoughts on that or corrective actions planned?
Yeah, so I talked to the LSA vice president this morning, and we are going to do it where not only are the principals contacted by email, but we're also going to make sure that our lead nurses for our contact tracing team are contacted as well. So if the principals don't get us that information, they will be able to follow up on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Trustee Smith Folds.
The 5 principals that you have on your committee, are they representative of each trustee area? Like one's from area 1, one's from area 2, one's from area 3, et cetera?
Yes, as best as possible. There's a good cross-section of principals that from experience, as well as the area, as well as secondary and elementary representation.
Did you include principals that are also at our Vista sites or our adult education sites as well? All alternative sites that we have?
I did not, but I will look into reaching out to them. This is a voluntary deal, so I will reach out to them to see if they have interest.
And then you said that the self-swabbing is going to be done, the pooling is done for about 25 kids. So I have a kind of a 2-part question with that. Are TK, K, and first graders able to self-swab themselves? And then what happens at the middle school and high school when you have more than 25 kids in a classroom? Do you just take the cross section of 25 and then the other 10 or the other, 5 don't get tested? How does that work?
Yeah, so what they would do is put them in a secondary pool. So I'm starting from the secondary and moving down. So they would put them, so if there's 25, then if there's 10 more, they would put them in an additional communal tool. So they would be together. Nobody is going to be in a situation where they don't get tested. As far as the pre-K and K, we will have representatives from the company that if they are not, well, let me back up a little bit. If the people that are tested on our site are not able to do that, they will have a representative that would be able to do that testing for them.
Okay, and then we've had, El Cerrito's had 2 clinics, Pinole Valley's had a clinic, Hercules Middle and Richmond High. Of all of those sites that have had the clinics on campus, how many people have been vaccinated on those sites?
That is a number that I would have to give you or give you at a later date. The test is done through the county. The county gives us that information, and I will make sure that I get you that information. I just don't have it at this point in time.
Okay, and then, thank you. And then how many schools have reported masking issues or needs, for example, problems with people wearing the mask correctly, or 2, having problems with properly fitting masks or access to masks?
Are you referring to our anonymous line or just in general?
Both, please. Just a general estimate, the anonymous line and.
So off the top of my head, there are 4 schools that we have received complaints from that we have addressed with those site leaders moving forward.
Okay, and then can you explain to me the checks and balances once again with the principals reporting to the dashboard? What are the checks and balances with that? What happens if a principal doesn't report? Are you relying on the anonymous COVID hotline to know when there's a hit? What are the checks and balances with that reporting?
And what information are you referring to? You talking about the case itself or the mask? I mean, you're talking about COVID cases, right?
Yes, sir. So you told us when we were looking at the dashboard that the principals tell you guys about the cases, right? And
Yeah, so I'm sorry, go ahead.
And then it's put on the dashboard. So what are the checks and balances if you don't have a principal who reports, or if the principal is unable to report or miss something? How do we catch those cases that may not be reported by the principals?
So all information is sent through our Google form, which is auto-populated into a working spreadsheet that our contact tracers work from. So the requirement for the principals, if they have a positive case, is to report that as soon as possible. If they are not available, they have a designee that has the responsibility of putting that information in the Google form so that our contact tracers can get that information. The contact tracers are the information because it's auto-populated. Ms. Logan and her crew gets the information from there.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Christian, your next board, I just want to remind you, please do 4 questions for each presentation out of respect for your colleagues, so everyone has an equal opportunity. Mr. Christian?
The question is going back to some of the sites that I noticed some of my visits, that some of the sites are not, wearing a mask, and some of the kids, and you see them. And who's enforcing that?
So I think it's important for us to understand that everybody has a responsibility to make sure that we are keeping each other safe. But the site leader is responsible for their site. At the secondary level, they do have the ability to use the CSs for that. But it is a responsibility for everybody on the site to make sure that we are complying with our mitigation strategies. So if a teacher sees that, they need to say something. If it continues to be a compliance issue, there's an anonymous hotline that they can call, or they can tell their site leader, and then we can work on something in terms of a presentation for masking and things like that.
Okay. And then that's part to that. Why is it that the school itself is not making these announcements every day to constantly remind people in the morning, lunchtime, and close of the day?
That's a very good question, trustee. And we are working with our principals to make sure that they are getting this information out. I do audits, meaning that I go to various sites to see if they are in compliance. But that is something that we will reinforce with our site leaders moving forward. Thank you for that question.
That's it. Thank you.
I like that question. Mr. Gonzalez Hoy.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Booker. I have 4 questions for you. Is LSA able to text results to families and our staff when they come in? Or is it simply in their system that you can only get it if you log into their portal?
Unfortunately, you have to log into the portal. They are, LSA they have a contract with GVP. And GVP's system currently does not allow for text. So it is done through an email. But they are, as of today, they are working on trying to get that process up and going.
Great, thank you. What is the process if a student, or procedure, excuse me, if a student has a reaction to the vaccine at one of our clinics?
So if there's a reaction to the vaccine, so there's a period where you have to wait. So you can see if there is a person, I think it's like 15 minutes where you have to wait. If there is a reaction, whether it's a medical personnel that's on the site or a site leader that can call or contact AMR so they can respond to give assistance to that person. But we are using some of our medical staff, but it is a responsibility. It's just like any medical emergency. Our site leaders have the responsibility of contacting, whether it be 911 or if it's a non-emergency call, contacting them so they can respond.
Okay, thank you. Will our educators and classified staff be able to get the booster shot in one of our clinics?
That is a question it's a very good question, and I will have to get back to you on that. We are still looking at all our options with regard to vaccination.
Okay, thank you. And my last question is anyone in our community able to access the vaccine clinics, or is it purely just for our students and staff?
So we are looking at, making sure that our students, our staff are vaccinated, but we also, through the county health, there is an option for families as well. But they have to be part of that school community, if that makes sense.
If I could just chime in. I have Ed Services office checking in to find out if in fact parents can be on that list, because the way the vaccine clinics work are the principal has to, or someone designated from the principal has to have students sign up. So there's a Google form sent to the principal. The principal then has to have students sign up. So the only way a parent would actually be vaccinated at that vaccine clinic is if they actually sign up, or if there's a process for the principal to say parents can also sign up as well. But I'll have an answer for that. We originally did not promote this in terms of parents. I don't see why parents couldn't be vaccinated because it's, through the county. But we will get an answer on that. It would just require principals putting their name on the list, because they will only bring what they need based on the number of students and staff that have signed up. So if that helps answer that.
It does, thank you. And once we have clarification, if you wouldn't mind communicating that to the families, I think it would be very, very helpful for people to know. Thank you so much to both of you. Thank you, Mr. Booker.
Thank you.
Good questions. Cole?
Yeah, so if someone were to test outside of our vendor LSA, what are we going to do to prove test results amongst students, specifically positive ones? Like, will we use PowerSchool to upload documents onto there? How is the proof of positivity like ensured that it's going to be reported?
So we do ask for verification, and we ask for that verification in paper form. That information could be uploaded into Power Schools, but we are making sure that we get some type of physical verification.
And will there be a process in which they must prove a negative test result, like using PowerSchool again, after their 14-day quarantine and all the other procedures they go through?
I'm sorry, could you say that again? I didn't hear the full question.
It's okay. Will there be a process in which students must prove their negative test results after they have tested positive, aka like using PowerSchool in order to upload their negative test results?
No, so according to the CDPH and County Health, after the 10-day period, and you don't show any symptoms, you can come back to school without a positive or a note or a test.
And then is there going to be protection with anonymity for students that are getting vaccinated and pulled out of class?
Is there going to be protection for?
Yeah, protection, like for example, if a student gets up or is getting called out of class, is there going to be some sort of protection for that student in order to like, I don't know how else to say it, but just, yeah, to remain anonymous? Like, is there going to be a process in which they stay anonymous, or will they call them out by name on the intercom or something? Just because I know that some other students might be like, oh, why are you getting the vaccine or something like that?
No, anything we do that is a medical procedure, we try to keep it as anonymous as we can. So that would be a process that, and that's why the registration is important, because we want to make sure that people are not being ostracized for something that they want to do.
But as in, is there a certain process or training that staff members are going through in order to make sure that students feel safe?
Yes.
Okay. And then, sorry, last one. Is there a specific reason as to why students are not notified via our school emails about a positive COVID test at our particular school sites? I know that parents are, but school emails are not contacted.
So as far as school emails go, I know that there's limited information that we can give on there, but we contact the parent of the young person and anybody that was in close contact. So if they were outside of that close contact threshold, they would not be notified personally, but we do send out a community letter to the school community to make them aware that there was a positive case on campus.
So there's no, so even if a student is in close contact, they will not receive an email, just the parent, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Just to clarify, thank you.
Trujillo?
Yes, thank you. My first question is there a reason there are limitations in regards to why students can't know or aren't receiving school emails about them being exposed to COVID or positive cases in their school?
Is there a reason for why we don't contact students?
Yes.
It has to do with the age of the student and making sure that the parent or guardian has been notified. So it does change when a person is 18 and above. But that's something that we will look into. But I know that if you're underage, we have to contact your parents.
Okay, thank you. Could you explain to me the pool testing process just a little bit more? I'm still a little bit confused.
Okay, so So I'm going to read you from the actual, the website and what that entails, and then the company that CDPH contracts with.
Thank
So with pool testing, the CDPH pool testing program includes regular asymptomatic testing for all students, teachers, and staff. While on site, staffing including at no cost for all public and charter schools. Asymptomatic pool testing can be used alone or in conjunction with other testing programs to provide a bigger picture to help identify potential outbreaks. This is an end-to-end testing program. It is designed to be very easy for the schools. Like I said, there's no cost. The testing includes test kits, courier service, reporting, and administrative support on-site and on-site staffing. And once again, this is free for all public schools. It's a turnkey testing solution, and it's proven fully supported program with onboarding and training, minimizing the burden to the school staff. And like I talked about earlier, it maximizes classroom time. Testing only takes 10 minutes per week to collect swab samples from an entire classroom.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad I understand it better. My next question is, what can we do? Okay, what can we do about possible outside issues with the vaccine clinics? Today, I go to Pinole Valley High School, and we had our vaccine clinic, and there were demonstrators who were opposed to it and were actually, I believe, blocking the entrance to get into the vaccine center. And I know that other places might have this sort of issue. Is there a way to make sure that students are safe? Because we don't know these people's motives 100%.
We take the safety of staff and students very serious. I was at Pinole High School today, and as long as people are, it is not against the law to protest, but they must protest peacefully and without violence. So the protesters were, when I got there, they were across the street and they were protesting peacefully.
Sorry, I just wanted to interject that they did later come onto campus, and I believe were talking to students, and I believe even I had one student, I've heard that there are some students who had, I guess, bad interactions with these people, and they were being not threatened, but I guess cursed at and that sort of thing.
Mr. Trujillo, are you talking about adults?
Yes.
Call the police. If someone comes on campus and is cursing at the students, call the police.
So the police were called, and the police removed those people from the campus, and the people that remained were placed across the street.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that those things, because I wasn't fully aware of the entire situation, but I just wanted to make sure that, as long as they don't try to interact with students on campus or
Yeah, and at that point, if they're interacting or they're creating a disruption on the campus, that is a police call, and the police will help with resolving that issue.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that, yes, if they're across the street, that's fine. I'm just saying if they're on campus. My next question would be, is there data on how many students are vaccinated at each site?
That is information that I would have to get for you later. It is based on the site getting that information. So that is some information that I'll have to get you later.
Thank you. And I'm just adding on to that. Do we have information on how many students got vaccinated so far at each testing site?
I believe Trustee Folds asked that question, and I have to get that information from County Health.
Thank you. Those are all of my questions.
I apologize for getting upset, but people do need to know if that they come on our campuses and harass the children, they will go to jail. And they need to know that.
And forgive me for not mentioning that immediately, President Phillips, but I was going to get to that in my.
And I understand, they need to know they will go to jail. We will send you to jail if you come on our campuses and harass our children. Next presentation, please.
Good evening. Next slide, please. So I wanted to give an update on our TK aides. That question has come up a few times. So in 2019-20, the district had to make some hard decisions about staffing due to the budget reductions. And our TK aides were laid off at the end of 2019-20. And currently, they're not in the budget this year for hiring. Our focus has been on our 100 special ed paraprofessional vacancies, which we have reduced. It started out at 130 and we're down to about 100. Under the governor's new universal TK program, SB 130, the district is hopeful to expand the support for our TK students in classrooms. For this year, we are reaching out to school volunteers to assist and to support our TK classes while we work to implement the SB 130. Next slide, please. So I wanted to give you a little more information on our certificated and where we are. I looked at just the last month in September. We are extremely excited to be bringing a new job description for board approval on 10/20. The coordinator of residency programs. We had meetings on Tuesday with October 4th with USF and Cal State East Bay to formalize some agreements and to start that process to really work on having an intern program and coordinate that with the district. This coordinator, and I'll bring more information next board meeting, but this coordinator of residency would be there to grow your own program, to work with our interns, our student teachers, anything that we can do to kind of work from within to provide and make sure that we have teachers here. So we will continue to make connections with other universities as well, but we see this as a big component and part of the recruitment work that we need to do. So for new teacher hires in the past month, we've had 4 out of the country that we're working to get here. We have 4 starting within the next few days, and we have 6 waiting on credential approval. I wanted to expand a little bit on what that looks like. We do get applications and recommendations from principals or anybody that's bringing somebody to look to hire. And what we have to do is go through the credential process. That means that reviewing their transcripts, their ACT, SAT scores, there are actually 8 different ways to meet the California Basic Requirements test if they do not have the requirement, if they do not have CBEST. So that can be a lengthy process. We have to ask for additional transcripts. Maybe it's a community college, but that's a process that we have to take. And sometimes they don't meet that qualification and we're not able to move forward. Certificated substitutes, we have hired 12 in September and we have 4 in progress. And again, they have the same process in terms of CBEST. If they don't have the CBEST test, they can meet that requirement by those 8 different factors outlined by the California Teacher Commission, CTC. So again, that is something that we have the option to do, but it does take time. Next slide, please. So our classified September kind of update. Classified hiring can look different. We have our new hires that are come on board externally. We had 19 of those. Promotions, so that could be anywhere from a substitute promoting into a position or any kind of promotional opportunity. So we had 29 of those. Lateral transfers, just moving from one site to another through the transfer process. 13, and then pending new hires, we have 10. And many of these are those 29, 30 special ed paraprofessionals that we were onboarding from the last couple of interview panels that we had. And again, speaking of special ed, we are continuing to hire. We had October 5th yesterday. We had interviews October 7th and then again October 12th. Really partnering with our union, we were able to focus on external hiring and making sure that we were able to focus on all of those vacancies. So we will continue to do that and make sure that we get them on board. And then classified substitutes, which does include custodian, hired 18. This could be anywhere from clerical, translator, custodial, paraprofessional. And so, and in progress, we have 12. One of the biggest issues that we seem to have is just following through with our applicants of meeting all the requirements, whether that be a strength test, TB, the paperwork, and following up with those items. So we continue to contact them and try to get that information, making a fingerprint appointment so that we can move forward with them. We are getting a lot of applications. We've put Indeed out in Indeed many of our applications, but again, going through all those, not everyone is qualified, and but we are doing as many interviews as we can. I think student trustee Trujillo, you had a question. Will you repeat that and I can go through that? Oh, sorry. I just knew I was supposed to address it. Sorry, President Phillips.
Right, we're gonna do questions, but we're gonna do them in order.
Okay, so I'll make sure, just remember to, because I was going to discuss that. So I think that's it for now.
Reckler?
Thank you. So I apologize if I missed this. How many teacher vacancies do we still have?
So I broke it down a little bit differently because we have them covered in different ways. So for example, in elementary, we have 3 vacancies that are being covered by our prep teachers or a substitute, but we actually had a hire, we hired somebody, but they're still out of the country. We have 11 vacancies that are covered by a sub or central office staff or prep teacher. We have 3 vacancies that we have an offer that's pending credential information. So we've extended an offer. And then we have 1 vacant counselor and 6 leave of absences that are long-term that are covered by a substitute. Secondary, we have 5 vacancies that are offered but pending credential confirmation and onboarding. 15 vacancies covered by substitutes and period subbing by site staff. We have 1 that starts on October 12th, 4 long-term leave of absences that are covered by substitutes, and 1 vacant counselor, 1.4. So 2 positions, and then 3 special ed positions that are covered by substitutes as well, and period subbing.
Okay, and then related to that, this is probably for Ms. Martin. How I know this is difficult to answer, but when there is lack of instructions, how is that being addressed? And then I hear some crazy stories, like there's a sub in there, but grades can't be given because they don't have the right credential to give grades, or like it feels very frustrating to parents and students in some cases.
So I can address the substitute issue. If they have a valid substitute credential, they can be in the classroom up to 60 days under the Governor Newsom's law. I think it's 167, SB 167. So that wouldn't be the reason why they couldn't give grades. It may be access to Power School, that may be, but they are valid to be in that classroom as a substitute.
And so if grades can't be given, what happens?
So I'd need to, I mean, if there's a technical reason, but
maybe we can offline, then I can just give you the information. You can follow up separately. Yeah, it sounded so weird. I didn't even know if I could, if it would, Anyway, that's all I have.
Thank you, trustee Reckler. Trustee Smith Folds.
President Phillips, can you come back to me? I'm still formulating.
Yes, ma'am. Trustee Christian.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The question is, as far as the shortage of teachers, what are we doing? How are we recruiting the teachers?
Well, we're still doing all of the things that we have normally done. We're pushing out. I probably need to coordinate with Mr. Phillips, but just working on social media again. We have our EdJoin postings. We are word of mouth, connecting again, but this is a time that there's not a lot of people eligible to come. If they're already a teacher under contract, they can't come somewhere else. So we have less of a pool. So we're, continuing to put the word out and we're getting applications. It's just, there's just not as many and not as many that are qualified.
Okay, and then I know you mentioned you recruiting teachers like from other places. What places they coming from?
You mean out of the country?
Yes.
So many times they're from the Philippines. They have a few that, that apply, and they have already a contract with an agency, like a J1 agency, to come to the country and to work.
Okay, and then when I'm asked, like with our colleges around here, Cal and all these other, we don't have people in California or maybe in the
Correct.
in the United States,
Correct. Most people are working under a contract right now, and so they can't change jobs right now. We definitely have a nationwide and California state shortage of teachers and people that, retired early because of not wanting to either come back or, there was definitely a spike in retirements over the last 2 years. So yes, we absolutely have a shortage, which means that everybody is in the same position. There are vacancies all over the state, and we're not able to find the teachers. We are connecting with the universities, but that will be for either in January, if some of them are ready to graduate and come and start working, and then of course next year.
Okay, and then the last question I'm gonna ask is, how are we recruiting like from historical Black colleges?
Yep, we've gone, we have our recruitment coordinator, Thomas Scott, has gone back there several years in a row. And then we did it virtually this past year. One of the biggest stump that we hear is the cost of living. So if, we may find people that are interested and want to come here and work, but the cost of living is definitely different and a factor.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gonzalez-Hoy.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Williams, for the presentation. My first question is for both you and Dr. Hurst. Is there anything that you feel like you still need from us to help your recruitment?
So right now, it is hard knowing that we're just in that time frame where it's hard to find people. It is really also planning ahead. This is the time we start planning for next year. HR's working at what fairs are we going to go to, how many are we going to need, getting all that planned out right now. So we've already started that planning process, and that's where, we want to make a big impact, knowing the struggles we had this year. So that's a lot of our attention there. But again, we are continuing to recruit for the vacancies that we have right now. And that's why we connected with those universities to see if we can find anybody for January to start then, and continuing to look for people that may be interested in teaching, but we need to see if they qualify.
Thank you. Dr. Hurst, same question. Is there anything that you feel like HR might still need that you feel would be helpful that we support with?
Yeah, I would just say I engaged in a conversation with a board member the other day, and the board member was sharing with me and the team to be outrageous in our ideas and to bring them to the board. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to plan. We're going to bring some ideas to the board for consideration.
Perfect. Thank you. And my last question is, might be for Ms. Martin. Are we still working or planning towards creating a teaching academy or teaching pathway in one of our secondary sites? And it's okay, it's
So-
okay if you want to follow. Oh, Ms. Williams, sorry.
So that would be something that coordinator position would be looking at and coordinating with the department with Ms. Martin's team. But again, all options are on the table and making sure that we can, grow our own. I've gotten a lot of data and research around that. And that's where we also need to look at every possible way to make sure that we have qualified teachers in the classroom. So it's the work right now that needs to be done to fill it, but it's also the long-term planning and thinking and figuring out how to do that. So that coordinator would, could definitely be part of that process and looking at that.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Williams. Sorry, Ms. Martin, for putting you on the spot. At Richmond High last year had a club, and then El Cerrito was interested. So it was before your time. So I apologize for putting you on the spot. Thank you, Ms. Williams. That was my last question.
Cole?
So I'd like to ask, have the hiring qualifications been possibly lowered due to a lower standard due to people's inability to possibly have work experiences because of the pandemic?
So are you speaking teachers or classified?
Just staff members in general, but specifically, yeah, teachers.
So with teachers, the main thing is being able to be in the classroom with a credential. So that is set by the commission, the CTC. And so there's no way that we can lower those standards. And we have to follow those to make sure they have a credential in the classroom.
Yeah, but just like regarding credentials, I meant like work experience, specifically if one teacher taught at Richmond High for 12 years or something, compared to someone who didn't have that work experience. I mean, that's what I meant, like the standard of their work experience. Has that been kind of lessened or lowered?
So we hire both teachers that have 12 years of experience, 15, and those that are brand new, would be an intern. So the intern program is basically they're in their 5th year of study and they're getting that teacher credential, but they're able to work in the classroom. So they don't have that experience. Maybe they had a year or two of subbing, but they're usually supported by the university in being able to do that work while they get their credential. So we take all, from just barely out of college and getting their credential to however many years of experience.
And are those newer, specifically those newer interns, receiving any curriculum like provided by the district in order to prepare them or give them a jump start or head start? Sorry.
So again, we work with the universities, and they will be partnered with somebody to get some mentoring. They have support from the universities, and then we have the new teacher beginning program to do that as well.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Trujillo?
Yes, thank you. How long can the credential approval process take?
So if you're talking from the CTC, right now, I think on their website, it says they're processing applications from late July. They also saw a big retirement in the last 2 years during COVID, and so they are understaffed as well. In terms of our internal process, again, if you come in the door with a credential, it's very easy to check that. But if you have to qualify for a credential, it can take a couple days if you have all the information, and it can take a week or two if we have to continually, get additional information from the candidate.
Thank you. And then the question I had earlier was what exactly is being done for the I guess maybe Dr. Hurst can also answer this. He mentioned it is mission critical that staffing is a big thing. So what extra steps or efforts are being made to ensure that those, I guess, vacancies are filled?
So again, I think there's short-term and long-term. There's the continuing looking now. In terms of long-term, I think where we have the biggest impact is outlining, I have several things that outlined using better technology to track our candidates, to have more of a dashboard. This is exactly where we are right now. That's not easy to do. When somebody asks me a question, I have to go back and look at data. A better application experience and onboarding experience for our employees, easy to find the vacancies. Working with other departments to know earlier on what our enrollment numbers are and what our allocations are for teachers for the next year based on that enrollment. And so having that information is really critical earlier so that we know what to recruit. More social media and making sure that we're getting out the word out there that we're hiring to all of our partners. As I mentioned earlier, partnering with those universities, because that's really where the pipeline is, and the growing your own. So that coordinator will be a big, finding ways to hire again earlier. We want to partner with and have been in conversation with our union association about being able to balance the transfer of teachers from one site to the next, but hiring earlier, because we're in competition with all of the different school districts around the area. Again, doing exit interviews to make sure we know what the issues are. And so we're retaining more of our teachers on an ongoing basis. So really digging into that data as well. Those are just a few of the things that are on our plate. Again, we are looking at implementing some technology around recruitment in November. We have the dates already set so that we are ready to go in January, and it is a smoother process.
Thank you. And how is the application process different for custodial staff?
So everyone goes through EdJoin, and so you have a username, a password, you go apply. It's not so much the application process, it's getting all of the paperwork in. If you have a requirement and you need to upload something, it's also meeting the requirements of onboarding. So to be able to be hired, you have to be fingerprinted. You have to complete a strength test for certain job classifications. You have to fill out all your forms. You have to come in and provide documents to be fingerprinted. So if we don't have all of that information, we're not able to move forward. References, we do reference checks. So if they don't give us those name of references. So it can be any of those things that if we don't have, we can't complete the process.
And one last question, which well, it's probably also Dr. Hurst, you mentioned outrageous ideas. And I mean, I would like to think this isn't that outrageous, but it probably is. What about, you mentioned that housing prices are a big reason for why teachers like don't want to teach here, or not be in this area. Is there any chance of maybe some point assisting teachers with housing prices? Or I even heard about San Francisco having affordable housing built specifically for educators.
So again, I have heard of that idea and know that it's something that, does prevent people from coming here. And so whether it be finding that avenue, right now, I don't think it's something our HR department can undertake, but definitely those are things that we have to look at in terms of how we can recruit and retain going forward.
Thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you very much. Is that the last?
You need to come back to me, President Phillips.
Trustee Smith-Folds?
Ms. Williams, how are the vacancies filled? Are these teachers placed, or do they apply to certain schools that they see on EdJoin, or are they in a pool and you just kind of place them in the schools of needs? How are the vacancies filled?
So what we have tried to have pools, right, where we hire an offer and then they are placed later. But what we have found is that a teacher really wants to know where they're going, have that relationship with that manager, that principal, and that grade level. So that is one of the difficulties of hiring earlier without having, this is what we're hiring for. So it's a balancing act, but we are always, if we go to a recruitment fair, we are giving them an offer of intent that yes, we want to hire you. and without an actual position, but we do that all the time if they're willing to do that. Did I
Thank you.
answer your question?
Did. And then how many teachers are period subbing daily? Like for today, for example, how many teachers period sub today across our district? Do we have that information?
So I don't have that information for today. We have two different ways of doing it. We have those that have signed up to do an extra 20%, and that's for the year. So they have an extra period that's ongoing. And then we have the period subbing, but we won't get that information. They input it into ESS, and then we get the data later when they turn it in, when it gets submitted.
So you would probably have the data from 2 weeks ago, something like that at your hands?
Correct.
Okay, are you able to pull that up from 2 weeks ago, or you're not able to pull that up now?
Not right now. I mean, it's in our payroll system, and I am not as familiar with our payroll system. I can pull some reports, but I would need to get it.
And then I heard you say that we hire from other countries, and I missed what countries you said we hire or recruit from. Can you tell me again what countries we recruit from?
Well, this year we did a targeted recruitment from Spain for our teachers, our DLI teachers, and that was through the California State Department program. We didn't really target any countries this year, but if someone applies that's out of the country and they meet the qualifications and a manager, principal interviewed them and they have an agency that they're working with for a J1, then they can be hired.
And since the mandate, what's the timeline for teacher or employee dismissal? I'm not clear on that timeline. Will that start October the 15th? Will that start in January? Then it's kind of, they didn't turn in their vaccination, so now they're on the dismissal track. What does that timeline look like?
That would be January, the January 3rd date that would start.
So teachers would be dismissed on January, or teachers or employees on January 3rd, or there soon after?
It would start at that point in time, but not be. They would just get a notice that they are out of compliance and we would start that process. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I cut you off. What did you?
No, I'm sorry. The due date for the vaccination is December, and then we would start that process in January.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's it for now.
Thank you, Trustee Smith Folds. Board, it's now 9:01. We've been going for a moment. We have 2 items left, and I want us to start closing at 10 because that will give each one of us 3 minutes of closing time. And I know people have things that they want to say, general comments. But is it okay? Can I have a motion to actually recess until 9:10?
Yeah, I'll move that recess till 9:10.
Thank you, ma'am. Can I have a second? A second. You guys can't let it go, huh? All right. So it's been moved by Reckler, seconded by Christian, for us to recess until 9:10. Reckler, can you start the vote?
Reckler, yes.
Smith Folds, no. I would like us to have more time for our closing comments.
Christian, it's your vote.
Gonzalez, oh yes.
Cole?
Yes.
Trujillo, yes.
Phillips, yes. Motion carries. We're on recess until 9:10. Thank you. Calling the meeting back to order. We are now moving to item E1, which is approved receipt of initial bargaining proposals from the United Teachers of Richmond, Teamsters Local 856, West Contra Costa Administrators Association, School Supervisors Association, IFPTE Local 21, and West Contra Costa Unified School District with each of the above names?
Thank you, President Phillips. Tonight, we're just asking the board to receive the initial reopeners, and this is just to discuss health and welfare benefit costs. Each year, our health and welfare benefit costs change on January 1st. That's our plan year. As part of each contract, we have to formally open up negotiations to determine the district's percentage of payment and the employee's percent as part of the bargaining process. So we're just asking the district to accept the receipt. There's no other action necessary tonight.
Board, because this is really a negotiation issue, if you have any process questions about how the process works, that's fine, but it really needs to be limited to that. So, Reckler, do you have any questions, process questions?
No, I don't. Maybe one of you will spark something for me, but no, I don't. Thank you.
Trustee Smith Foltz?
I don't have any process questions, no.
Christian?
No, I don't have any.
No questions, thank you.
No
Oh.
questions, thank you.
No, I did not have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, can somebody move this?
President Phillips, I'll move. E1.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so it was moved by Gonzalez Hoy, and it was seconded by Christian. And again, because this is actually a negotiation item, this is not something we discuss out here. So we're going to start the vote. Reckler?
Reckler, yes.
Smith Folds, yes.
Christian, yes.
Gonzalez, Hoy, yes.
Co, yes.
Trujillo, yes.
Phillips, yes. It carries. Thank you. Now we're going to move on to item E2, public hearing and approval of resolution 22-2122, grades transitional kindergarten through 12 textbook and instructional materials compliance for fiscal year 21-22.
All right. California Ed Code 60.11.9 specifies that in order to be eligible to receive state funds for the purposes of purchasing textbooks and related materials, the governing board of a school district shall hold a public hearing at which the board shall encourage participation by parents, teachers, members of the community interested in the affairs of the school district and bargaining unit leaders. The opportunity to address the board regarding whether each pupil in the district has sufficient textbooks or instructional materials or both in math, science, history, social science, English language arts, including language arts development component of an adopted program. The governing board also shall determine the availability of laboratory science equipment as applicable to science laboratory courses offered in grades 9 through 12 inclusive. The board shall use the information provided to it by the district in conjunction with any information provided by the public during the hearing to determine if every student has sufficient core textbooks in the specified content areas. Once sufficiency is verified, the board shall adopt a resolution to that effect. President Phillips, please open a public hearing regarding textbook sufficiency.
The public hearing is open. People who are in the audience on Zoom, if you would like to comment, this is an opportunity. That's what the public hearing is for. I will take a few moments for you to raise your hand in the Zoom. Once again, this is for item E2, public hearing and approval of resolution 22-2122, grades transitional kindergarten through 12, textbook and instructional materials compliance for fiscal year 21-22. If there's anyone who would like to comment on this, you can. Just raise your hand in the Zoom or turn in a speaker card. All right, going once, going twice,
Gone. Public hearing is now closed. Board, do you have any questions? Trustee Reckler?
I do have a question about, I have gotten some small comments about textbooks just being in terrible shape, like shop worn. What happens with that?
Principals can request new textbooks from our library services to actually order new textbooks for students. In some cases, if it's in which a student has, in some instances lost the textbooks or things like that, then there could be some responsibility on the parent part. But the school can ask for a replacement of those textbooks. And I know that many textbooks were ordered in preparation for that, lost textbooks, especially with COVID, knowing that some students wouldn't return textbooks and also some books would come back damaged. So there is always coverage for books that come back damaged.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Reckler, is that it?
Yeah, I have nothing further. Thank you.
Okay, Smith Folds?
Trustee Phillips, will we have a time to comment on this?
Comment on before we,
Yes, will we have so this is questions and then will we have a time to comment?
you could comment. You
Now,
want discussion? No, you want discussion is what you're saying.
yes.
Yeah, I'll give you discussion.
Okay, so I have two questions. How many comments did the district get about the textbooks? The textbook compliance, the textbooks are going, how many comments have you gotten? From teachers, from principals, from students, from parents? How many comments have been generated about textbooks and instructional materials?
I have received very few comments about materials or textbook materials. Most of the comments or feedback regarding textbooks came from the Vista Virtual Academy.
In what ways did the district elicit public comment? In what ways were there surveys sent out about textbooks and instructional materials? Were there ways that people could comment about this? What ways did we go out looking for this information as a district?
There were no surveys that I'm aware of regarding textbook sufficiency. And typically, if there was textbook sufficiency, a parent would immediately just go to the principal of the school. That's not something I've experienced before in which there's a survey about textbook sufficiency.
Okay, I think what I'm trying to, okay, I'll save that for comment. Okay, those are the two questions. Thank you.
You're welcome. Christian?
I don't have it. I don't have anything.
Gonzalez Hoy?
Thank you. I don't have any questions.
Carl?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Trujillo?
Yes, I do have a question. It has to do with the resolution. Is that fine? Can I ask a question about the resolution?
Yes.
Okay. It says that the public was noticed at least 10 days in advance, and it was determined that the district has provided each pupil with sufficient textbooks or instructional materials. Just 10 days from today, just out of curiosity.
Is that question for me, trustee?
Yeah,
Trujillo?
yes.
Yes, 10 days from today.
Okay, maybe I'm just, yeah, the language is a little bit confusing for me, but yeah, thank you. I just wanted to make sure.
Okay, can I have a motion for this item? To approve the resolution?
I'm happy to move that.
Okay, moved by Reckler. Can I have a second, please?
A second.
Okay, it's been moved by Reckler and seconded
by Christian. This is item E2, public hearing and approval of resolution 222122 regarding textbooks and instructional materials. We do have some discussions. So Reckler, you want to start the discussion?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Trustee Smith Folds?
I think that when we have these public hearings, it needs to be said up front when we're going over all of the opening procedures so that people will understand that they do have a chance to comment, make public comment on this part of the agenda, because that is not clear, because people think that they only have the ability to make public comment at the beginning. I know that we say that you can make public comment on anything on the agenda or off the agenda, but this is specifically another area that people can make public comment. So it needs to be laid out clearly in the very beginning when we have these public hearings. I'm a little uneasy voting on something that, again, I don't believe the public had a chance to fully comment on, or even have the opportunity to make those comments or formulate what they want to say in a timely manner. So I think that we have to do better, including the public in what we're doing at all times and centering their voice. I do think that there are issues with the books and instructional materials at a lot of our sites, but again, that's just me hearing things and not having a place to actually put those thoughts. Like I don't have a way of documenting those thoughts besides just sending emails, but there needs to be some way that we're keeping track of the data about how many, we don't even ask, principals didn't send out a all call saying, yo, if you have something to say about textbook or materials, contact this person, or this is how you can email. We have to just get better at trying to get that information from the public and eliciting it from our teachers and our staff and our principals. That's the reason why I'm uneasy with this resolution passing. Thank you.
Christian?
No, I have any comments.
Gonzalez Hoya?
Thank you, President Phillips. Yeah, Dr. Hurst, I also share some of the concerns that Trustee Smith Folds shared. I have gotten a lot of complaints about textbooks and curriculum about a virtual academy. And because of that, I do feel uneasy approving the language specifically on the resolution, as well as complaints from some of our schools about not having curriculum for a while at the beginning of the school year because it was back ordered or whatever the reason was. So I am most likely going to abstain just because of I don't believe that some of the concerns have been fully resolved at the virtual academy. So I don't believe that I can fully agree with the language in the resolution. Thank you.
Cole?
No, I do not. Thank you. I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Trujillo?
Yes, I just want to say I do agree with what Trustee Smith Folds and Gonzalez said about about making sure that we listen to the community about this. And I do remember also hearing about issues with the virtual academy, and I think it's important to announce that there is an opportunity for the public to speak. Definitely 10 days before. I had no idea that this was an opportunity for the public to speak until just now. So maybe announcing it, I guess, on Facebook, or maybe something also that our communications director, Mr. Phillips, could do, but I'm not sure exactly like what else. But I just think just making sure the public is aware of this, since it's important, and the language is still a little bit unclear to me, so I'm not sure how I will be voting, but that's it.
Okay. We're going to vote, starting with Reckler.
Reckler, yes.
Smith Folds, no.
Christian, no.
Gonzalez Hoy, no.
I'd like to abstain.
Trujillo, no.
Phillips, yes. Motion fails.
Dr. Hurst, in the Friday memo, can you brief the board as to what this means? Yes, sir. You can comment if you'd like.
First, I would just like to say for the trustees, thank you for the feedback, but I also would like to share, I think I heard from our CAO that she's not received any complaints or many complaints. I think from what I heard, it sounds like some of our trustees have heard something. So what I would share is that this is a partnership. I would ask that if our trustees are hearing things, if you could share that with the superintendent so we can move forward. I would like to have known any complaints or any issues way ahead of time. And again, although I appreciate the feedback on what we could do to get better in getting this information out to the public in advance, I would really appreciate any feedback about complaints that you're hearing from anyone about textbooks. But I will get back to the board Friday letter.
I also want to just add that there's a tracking log in which teachers have to account for their textbook sufficiency, and they're nearly 100%. So teachers have to actually sign off on textbook sufficiency. So there is no indication from this tracking log that teachers are saying that they don't actually have the textbooks.
So Dr. Hurst will come back to the board with an explanation of what the ramifications of this vote are and what the next steps are.
Sorry, President Phillips, I was wondering if maybe, could we know what the ramifications are tonight? Is there any way that he could respond to that?
Dr. Hurst, can you please, or your staff, please let the board know what the ramifications are of the vote that just took place?
There are a couple pieces. This is an annual required submission. It's also part of the Williams review. So the county, if there were issues, would actually come back with a Williams finding. If the board might remember in the FPM last year, there was, as part of the Williams letter, there was a letter that there were a couple teachers when we were 100% virtual that never signed off on this. So that was a note in the county's report. This is just like the budget. It's one of those things that is supposed to be annually approved. So we'll have to go back now to the county and determine what occurs when a board doesn't approve it, and the county, which does come and verify, does. What does that mean? It's very similar to the budget. It now puts the entire onus to the county to either overrule or require the board to take other action. But again, the county does review this. And when there's no complaints, it's normal that these are done and approved each year.
Mr. Gonzalez-Way.
Thank you, President Phillips. I wonder if maybe hearing that, thank you, Dr. Wold, if you and my colleagues would be willing to reconsider and table the resolution so that we are able to discuss some of the issues and so that it doesn't fail tonight and then has repercussions moving forward. So it would require obviously us reconsidering and then making a motion to table the resolution so that we're not, so that we're able to be in compliance eventually, and we're not have to handle the ramifications.
President Phillips, may I make one more comment?
Yes, sir.
There is a statutory education code requirement that by the beginning of the 8th week of instruction that this hearing and action item is taken forward. So this was the last week for that to be done in tonight's board meeting.
This is my request. Based on the things that have just been said Also, you may recall at the last meeting, I believe, and if I'm mistaken, Ms. Martin, correct me, or Mrs. Martin, I think she said that the virtual school didn't actually come in to play here because this is kind of a look back and the virtual school is new. I think that's what you said, Ms. Martin. Is that accurate?
That was for the previous board meeting, and that textbook sufficiency was actually for last school year. This current one is actually for this school year.
For this school year?
And so the virtual academy is listed on here and they're actually 100% complete. So principals have to have their teachers sign off on this, that students have materials. There was also a textbook distribution at Vista. And so this form shows me, the tracker, that they're 100% compliant. And the county would have also indicated if that was not the case.
So, Ms. Martin, what you're saying, and we're getting a little out of order here, so we're gonna wrap this up, but what you're saying is that the teachers at Vista have certified that we're compliant, the principal at Vista has certified we're compliant, and the county has checked off that we're compliant. Is that what you're saying?
That is correct.
Okay, so board, do you want to reconsider? If not, we're gonna move on and we can deal, our staff could deal with what we just did. Board, do you want to reconsider or are we gonna move on?
Are you asking an order, President Phillips, or you just want us to unmute and say what we want to do?
No, there's only 3 people who could move for reconsideration. Those 3 people, well, that's not true. There are 3 people, well, it is. There are 3 people who can move for reconsideration. Those 3 people are the people who voted against the adoption. So that would be Trustee Smith Folds, it would be Mr. Christian, and it would be Mr. Gonzalez Hoy. If one of them want to move for reconsideration, we could take this back up. Anybody could second.
That's what I'm asking. I'm asking, are you asking us in order? Do we want to reconsider? Like I would say, if I wanted to, then it would be Trustee Christian, then it would be Trustee Gonzalez Hoy, or are you just opening the mic and waiting for us to say yes or no?
That's a good idea. We'll ask in order. Trustee Smith Folds, do you want to make a motion to reconsider?
I do not.
Mr. Christian, do you want to make a motion to reconsider?
All right. Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Christian, thank you very much, sir, has made a motion to reconsider. I second that. So this is back on the table. Board, can I have a motion to approve this resolution?
President Phillips, I apologize, point of order.
Yes, sir.
Don't we have to vote in order to reconsider? And majority of the board has to vote yes in order to reconsider the vote.
You're right. I just went, ooh,
Yeah.
I got way ahead of myself. You're right. So it's been moved and seconded to reconsider, and we are going to start with the vote. Reckler?
Reckler, yes.
Smith Folds, no.
Christian?
Christian, yeah.
Gonzalez, so yes.
Co?
Yes. Oh, sorry. Co, yes.
Trujillo?
Trujillo, yes.
Phillips, yes. The motion to reconsider carries. Now, board, can I have a motion to adopt this resolution?
I'll move to adopt.
Moved by Reckler. Can I have a second? Seconded by Phillips. It's been properly moved and seconded. We've just had discussion, so we're gonna vote. Reckler, you got more
President Phillips,
discussion, sir?
I was wondering if I could just say something
You
before we
can,
vote.
go ahead. Go ahead. Go
Thank
ahead.
you, sir. I did just want to share, Dr. Hurst, that I have sent you weekly email for the last 3 weeks from my listening session with the community, that I've gotten complaints from parents and teachers at the virtual academy that they do not have enough curriculum. So I do know of 2 families who have now filed a Williams complaint in the last week over it. So I just wanted to say that I felt disappointed at your comment because I felt that it was directed towards us when I have been sharing that feedback. So I did want to say that I feel like the data is not complete. I am deciding to switch my vote tonight because of respect to staff and the repercussions that we're hearing, but I do think that it's an issue. And I do think that I have shared those concerns. So that I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Board.
President Phillips, may I say something?
You can. I'm just realizing we just got out of order. So yes, Trustee Smith Folds.
As a teacher and as a former teacher in the district, signing those papers, ensuring things are happening. Yes, that happens. Yes, that people sign papers and all of that, but we have to understand that we're hearing from parents, we're hearing from teachers, we're hearing from community members. I have to be able to center that and understand that if this was supposed to happen before the 8th week, it shouldn't have been brought back on the 8th week. That's just facts. If it was supposed to happen before now, if the 10-day notification was supposed to go out, if all of these things were supposed to happen, then it shouldn't be we should not wait to the last minute. We can't continue to wait to the last minute and just hope that things get passed through the board. We have to slow down and do due diligence and get a backwards plan. When is it due? When do we have to be able to have it to the board? When is there going to be more discussion? This will not be a check boxing type of board. It shouldn't be. It can't be. That's not on us. That's not a skill that we want to teach our students. You have to be able to backwards plan. You have to know when things are due and then come to the board in a timely manner so we can give you the actual feedback that you're asking for. If not, it's just asking us to check a box. And I'm not going to do that. We did not hear in a public hearing about textbooks and material compliance from anybody from the public. We have heard, trustees have heard, students have heard, I'm assuming, people have heard that we are not in compliance at some of our schools. We have to be able to balance the information that we're getting, the information we're getting from the district and the information that we're getting from the community. Now, we have an opportunity to do that when we have public hearings and when we have public comment and when we have standing reports. And we have all of that openness that we have to be able to hear what the public has to say. But I'm not going to change my vote on this, not because of the timeline. That's not my issue. That's not my issue here, is to make sure that I'm getting accurate information to make a decision that's going to have other ramifications. If something that we do from this board has a negative ramification on the district, then I hope that we learned a lesson and we won't do it again. We have to be in the mood to clean up what we mess up. But we can't keep just waiting to the last minute with the expectation that because we waited to the last minute, the board's going to feel like they're under pressure and they're going to say, yes. I won't be pressured. I will not be pressured because of a timeline that I have nothing to do with. Give me a calendar. Let's figure it out on the calendar. Let's backwards plan so we'll have enough time to really center our community and hear from them. I'm keeping my vote. We have to do better. Thank you.
Christian, do you have any comments?
Yeah, comment that I have is, which Trustee Smith is right. A lot of stuff should be, considered in a timely manner. So, and then when we do get the information, then we'll be able to, process to, to do what we need to do. But that's all I have to say.
Co?
No comments, thank you.
Trujillo, do you have any comments?
Yes, I'm just once again asking that the next time we do bring this up, that the public is just more informed about it, and that we reach out to the community more about this issue. Because I have had heard there was issues with the virtual academy and textbooks from parents. So there's definitely issues, even if they're not written down, like Trustee Smith-Fold said. So we should just reach out to community more as trustees and ask these questions if people are receiving their materials. Thank you.
Thank you. Out of respect for the superintendent, I'm going to let him speak.
Yeah, just want to clarify to the board, I am not asking anyone to check a box. I've not done that since I've been here. What I am asking us, though, to do is to partner together. I have 2-on-3 meetings with every board member. This information could have been shared with me then. I do respect everything that you've shared and all of your feedback as well. But I do want to share that I have structures in place for board members to share this type of things with me. I do feel I was caught off guard. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hurst. Board, we are going to vote. We are voting to, and Dr. Hurst, it is your recommendation that we approve this resolution?
Yes.
Okay, we are voting on the approval of Resolution 22-2122, grades transitional kindergarten through 12 textbook and instructional materials compliance for fiscal year 21-22. The vote is to approve. That's what we're voting on. Reckler, can you begin the vote, please?
I can. Reckler, yes.
Smith-Folds, no.
Christian, yes.
Gonzalez, so yes.
Yes.
I abstain.
Phillips, yes. Motion carries. Thank you for being flexible, board. We are now done with our action items. We don't have any discussion items or reports. We have now comments from the Board of Education. 6 minutes apiece. Please use 6 minutes and don't take time from your colleagues. Please respect everyone. Do not take your colleagues' time. Reckler.
Sure. Well, thank you. First, I'd like to welcome Morgan Matthews to the team. Glad you're here. Can't wait to see what you do. I'd also like to thank our school administrators who have carried us for what seems like a century through this pandemic, holding communities together through the closing and then reopening in the spring, after a year, and then again here at the start of school. You have all of my gratitude. For a couple of follow-up items, if we could address the water at Pinole Valley High School. I believe we have some shortages in actual water because we can't buy it. So if that could go out and perhaps water bottles, I don't know what else we could do, but to patch that over. I don't think it's a bad idea to look into rapid tests for home use. I don't know that if they're inaccurate, please don't, but that could be a good idea. I also would like to come back to the vaccine mandate. I think there's some cleanup work that needs to get done about booster shots because that was never addressed. And now we are rolling into booster shots. So that seems like it might be important. So there might be some cleanup work there. And also as you start to communicate the vaccine mandate, I am getting lots of questions about exemptions and a few little things about alternative education plans, but that should certainly be thought through. For the website, I hope that Mr. Phillips will consider a community advisory team at the right time. I think there are certain groups that would like to give you information and get a better product out of it. I'm also deeply concerned about vaccine clinic safety. So that was a real shock. I want to thank Mr. Trujillo for bringing that up. And, our students need to be kept safe. So, yeah, call the police if you have to. And I think, one other thing I wanted to mention is that on your COVID response team, I do think it is worthy to think about putting a SCOW and a parent on that team. I think you'll get some really good information that will improve the process almost immediately. And as far as agenda items, tight agenda, working only on mission critical items. And that's it for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Trustee Smith Foltz.
So I'm going to read the closing comments and then I'm going to read what I have for the agenda items. I believe there's only one difference between indoctrination and education. I believe indoctrination comes when there is no conversation and an absence of a mix of perspectives and points of view. The district cannot run on autopilot. Autopilot works when conditions are so stable that there's no room for error and there's a sense of ease that is overwhelming. The board cannot run on autopilot. This has to be an all hands on deck, fully conscious with intentional action type of organization. Running back to brick and mortar, returning back to brick and mortar requires creativity and innovation. The reason we are failing is because we did not, the reason we are failing is because we did what we knew we shouldn't. We made the return a turnkey operation. We just opened the doors. We failed, so now what are we going to do about it? Failure is a powerful tool if we use it correctly by learning from it. We must course correct. We are always either building or destroying with every decision that we make. We have to pay attention and watch. Watch every single thing all day. We have to increase our level of sensory acuity. Is what we're doing working or not? This is the measure of our success. We can do this. I really believe that we can do this. We can be the district that we want to be, but we need to get clear and speak honestly. We have to attend to the details. We must identify the manageable expectations, and then we have to manage those expectations. What are our HVTs? What are our high value targets? We need to have implementable messages and policies around deliverables. We must stop over-promising and under-delivering. We have to be true to our yes and our no. Being true to your yes and your no is being courageous. We cannot have conditional courage. Some of you think it's better for me to stay quiet, but I'm telling you, staying quiet is traumatic to my soul, and I just won't do it. I won't check a box. I won't just be here. I have to be able to speak for the community and be able to center their wants and their needs. As far as agenda items, we need to address the following items in some way as soon as possible. We need to talk about adult school. We need to talk about our trade school opportunities. We need to talk about period poverty. We need to talk about stand-in reports. We need to talk about dress code. We need to talk about numerical literacy and the overall literacy gaps and strategies in our districts. We need to have an equity statement and equity enforcement. We need to still talk about public comment. Tonight was a prime example of why. The public had no idea they could comment. We need to have a revision of our bylaws and our governance handbook. We need to talk about our preschool and our TK aides in isolation. We need to have that conversation to completion. We also need to talk about our transition program inclusion. Virtual school needs to be a standalone item that we can speak to and ask the questions, hear from the public, and put in policies and procedures that will make it be the best version of itself. We heard tonight and before that we need to talk about remote working. We need to talk about the report cards at the elementary school level. What are these report cards going to look like? Are they narratives or are they not a narrative? Report card grading season is coming up very quickly. And also we need to talk about, and maybe this will come up at the safety meeting, but we need to talk about safety as the mandate starts to be rolling out, as the mandate starts to roll out. And what does that look like on our campuses? And with the vaccine clinics on our campuses, what does that safety entail? That's it. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you very much. Next person is Trustee Gonzalez Hoy.
Sorry, President Phillips. it's trustee Christian. You had it all night, I'm telling you.
I've been doing good. Trustee Christian is next.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate that. I just wanted to close out first, to thank everybody, the staff who worked diligently hard, and the teachers and classified staff in the district, all those who on the front lines working hard day in and day out to service our kids, our students. I want to just say, we got a journey, but we got to keep moving. Also, I know it's a lot that we have to cover. Even just looking at, the discipline policy, it's a lot of things we have to touch on. Safety, making sure safety is always going to be at the forefront. Making sure that we stay on top of the things we need to do. So, just looking at the overall picture, we have a lot to, accomplish. So we don't have any time to waste. So, so that's pretty much, the thing is we just got to keep moving forward in the right direction. Thank you.
Gonzalez, what?
Thank you, President Phillips. Sorry, starting my timer. I would also like to echo my colleagues and start by thanking all of our staff, our families, and our students. I know you've had to deal with a lot the last few weeks, not just our usual opening of schools, but the stress of safety around COVID and the changing culture. I know many of you are already exhausted, and I just wanted to acknowledge that I just wanted to acknowledge you this week, and that we see you, and that we'll continue to push for all the supports you and your students need. I would like to make a proposal for our board that I believe will take us in a better direction. I believe that some of the issues that have risen for us as a body in the last few months have been around procedures, policy, and accountability of one another. I would like to propose that with the support of a facilitation of our superintendent and a partner of his choosing, or even leadership associates, that we go back to the basics and we as a body sit down for a full day and talk about our policies, talk about our procedures that we should be implementing and deciding together as a group, such as the number of questions or comments of the board, timing, etc. And as a body, we moved forward. I think that we can always work on the relationship, and that's important as well. But if we don't make decisions together and we don't have a common understanding of our policies and procedures, or have a real collaborative decision-making process, then we'll continue to see dysfunction. I hope that all of you, my colleagues, will want to try this so that we may be an example to other boards on how we can move forward together. For agenda items, I have now requested 4 times to put standing reports on the agenda to decide as a group how to move forward. I do believe that this item has to do with our current reality on COVID, as standing reports is a way to hear directly from our labor, parents, and community groups about the impacts of our current decisions. I hope we can all agree that respecting and following our bylaws is critical. Even if we disagree on the issue and majority decides to go in a specific direction, we should all be able to request items to be placed on the meeting agendas and have an equal voice. I would also like to request that we have a report and discussion about the virtual academy at the next meeting. Lastly, I did want to end and say Happy Administrators Week to all of our leaders. And I also wanted to thank all of our custodians, as I believe their National Day of Celebration was yesterday. Thank you all for all your work. And thank you, staff, for tonight. Have a good evening.
The next person is Co.
So first and foremost, I would like to say congratulations to our new communication director, Ryan Phillips and Morgan Matthews. I'd also like to say thank you to our school administrators, especially to my new school administrators that are always greeting me and everyone else on campus. But regarding the previous board meeting, I understand that lots of people were upset with the way it was conducted. While I was left disheartened by the series of events, I am relieved to hear that the public and other officials are trying to hold the entire board accountable. I would like to say thank you for those that did speak up, and your input did not go unrecognized, especially from a student trustee. As for the special board meeting held for the vaccine mandate, I'm happy with the decision to mandate the vaccination. However, I understand the public's outrage because of our last minute notice for the meeting, which was within less than a 24-hour advance. For that reason, I asked to clarify as to why the special board meeting was postponed, and I'm glad that Dr. Hurst diligently responded to clarify that there were further actions needed to take place, especially with attorneys. Although his explanation does not mean that the board's outreach was excusable, I'd like to recognize Superintendent Hurst for trying to be transparent. Dr. Hurst's transparency efforts have also carried out behind closed doors as he holds private agenda meetings with us and trustees, and I'm assuming other trustees as well. However, one transparency flaw that I know is that our student votes are not real votes, but are rather advisory notes that hold no weight in making a decision. I hope to be able to announce this clarification to the public every meeting in the future, so they know that as well. But overall, being in this position has opened my eyes to see our flaws and what we must do in order to address these things. But I'd like to say that I have hope with new members to the board that we will hold ourselves accountable and fix the wrongdoings of our board. Something that I'd like to address for future meetings would be the question of whether or not virtual academy students will have to be vaccinated, and more clarification for the possible lifting of COVID-19 safety protocols. I'd also like to ask what we address our school's inaccessibility to water, given that affects both me and Trustee Trujillo. I'm also concerned with the safety of students and staff members on campuses that have vaccination clinics following Trujillo's experience today at school. I hope that we are able to extend public comment times, as I feel as though the public has the most important role. But again, I'm so grateful for my position, and I hope to be able to experience these changes throughout my time in this board. Thank you, and a happy School Administration Week.
The next person is Trujillo.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank, of course, administrators. Happy Administrator Week, as well as I believe yesterday, Trustee Gonzalez mentioned that it was National Custodian Day. Thank you. And also like to send thanks to campus safety. I believe Ms. Williams mentioned that they hired 5 campus safety supervisors, which is a new position, I believe. And one of them is at my campus, Pinole Valley High School. And I talked to him earlier. He's a great guy. And I believe he also is here usually. His name is Mike. He's usually here protecting us. So thank you. And thank you to all supervisors and campus safety people for keeping us safe, especially after what I experienced today. Well, I didn't directly experience it, but yeah, there were some issues with the vaccine clinic and some people who decided to come onto campus. I don't know why they decided to come onto campus, but I just don't think that's okay. I also want to address the water issue at my school. This affects everyone. A lot of students may be afraid to speak up about it, so that's why I'm here. It's real. It's a thing. There's no water, or very limited amount of water provided to students. There's only 2 refilling stations, I believe, one in the cafeteria and one in the office, from my understanding. But that's not enough at all. And the water we are given are either tiny little bottles or boxes of water. And while I do have the privilege of being able to bring my own water to school, many don't. So I just think it's important to address that as soon as possible. Also, I've had to find myself bringing my own soap to school because I noticed an issue where many bathrooms were closed all of a sudden. Not just at my school, but I heard other students come to me from their school. I believe Kennedy High School is one of them, where not all bathrooms are open for no, well, I don't know. Yeah, that's the thing. We don't know the reasons why, but students seem to not have access to bathrooms. In my school in particularly, all bathrooms in our A building or theater building are closed off to students, which was actually very recent. Only last week they were closed off. They operated perfectly fine, until last week apparently. So they decided to close those ones, which is horrible because that cuts off access to students who use that building. I believe it's about 250 or so students per day who use that building, as well as the teachers, of course, but I think they do have staff bathrooms. And instead, we were instructed to use a bathroom outside next to our library, which does not have any soap or soap dispenser, which maybe because of that TikTok challenge, but there's something definitely needs to be done about that. And I don't know if it's still going on, but the point is there's still no soap in that bathroom. And I had to bring my own soap, which many people can't do and is ridiculous. You shouldn't have to bring your own soap to school. That's just, people found it funny, like students were like, oh, wow, like you brought your own soap to school, like you came prepared, but we shouldn't have to come prepared. We should be able to go to school ready to learn, but not have to deal with things like not having soap. So please, I don't know who to go to this about. I might have to go to my school admin, but I'm not sure what other schools have this issue other than just my school in Kennedy, where a bathroom is there, but not open to students for students to use. I also wanted to highlight maybe at some point having some sort of special session about student voice. I talked with Superintendent Hurst and student trustee Co about this. And I think it'd be important to talk more about it, since it always seems to be in discussion, but nothing's ever done about it. What exactly does student voice mean? Or what to do about it, how to get more students involved in this district and actually get them involved, because it's all talk, honestly. Most of the time, it just seems like talk. I will say thank you to, I believe, I'm not sure who it was, but I did actually receive our board's Friday memo last Friday. So thank you to who sent that out. Again, thank you to administrators and staff, custodians, safety officers, teachers. I just hope that some of these issues can get resolved regarding the water, of course, and the soap in the bathrooms at all sites, if it's not just my site, which is having that issue. And I hope that we can talk more about student voice and maybe hold a special session on student voice. And yeah, thank you. Those are all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And it is my turn. Okay, can I share my screen? Okay, can everybody see that? So there have been complaints by some people, not all, but complaints about how I manage the meetings. The purpose of this spreadsheet is to give you an idea of what is going through my mind during the meetings. What you see on the left is a description, and on the right, you see time. The time is denoted in hours. So 4 hours, 2 hours, 1, okay? The first thing you see in row 2 is total meeting time. That's 4 hours. Now, I did not create that. The 4 hours is from our bylaws. Our meetings are supposed to end at 10:30. People don't know that because this district has a horrible history of never ending on time. And people think that I am doing something wrong or that I'm making something up just because they simply haven't seen somebody in meetings consistently on time. But the 10:30 rule that you hear me talking about all the time, that is not a personal rule. That is in our bylaws, that the meetings are supposed to end at 10:30. So meetings start at 6:30, they end at 10:30. So that's a 4-hour meeting. That's why you see total meeting time 4 hours. Now, Second row is staff presentations. Every meeting, we have staff presentations. Those presentations usually take up to 2 hours. Sometimes they're shorter, sometimes they're longer, but they take up to 2 hours. That's why you see that there. The next thing you see is public comment. Public comment, we have set aside 1 hour, a quarter of our meeting for public comment. So that's where you see the 1 hour. Now, the next thing you see is 1 hour for board comment. And then after you see that, I've summed it up, that leaves 0. That means all time is spent. Now, to be honest, there are only a few things that I really care about deeply in these meetings as far as the facilitation is concerned. One is that we consistently finish our meetings by 10:30 pursuant to our bylaws, so staff can go home and go to sleep and be ready for the next day. We talk about our staff and how they are on sites and whether they're fresh and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And then we complain about them when they're not, but we make them stay up until 1 o'clock in the morning for board meetings, despite the fact that some of them have to drive to Solano County, some of them have to drive to East County, some of them have to drive all the way out to Alameda, but we make them stay here all night. And then wonder why people aren't fresh and ready to go to work with our kids in the morning. So here's the thing. I want to make sure that we consistently finish our meetings by 10:30. I want to make sure that we get our work done, that we actually finish our agendas. So 10:30, finish, actually finish our agendas. And I want to make sure that everybody has equal speaking time. Because we were all elected to be here. I am the board president, but I don't spend the entire meeting talking just because I have the gavel and the microphone. I want everyone to have equal time. That's important to me. So I don't care, honestly, how we rearrange these 4 hours, but these are the 4 hours that we're dealing with. So if anybody has suggestions about how we get through our agenda, how we consistently end at 10:30, and everybody gets equal speaking time, we could do that. But those are the 3 parameters that I have. We consistently end at 10:30. We complete our agenda, our work, and everybody gets equal speaking time. From what I see right here, there's only an hour for 7 people to talk. We could split that time up however you want. We could split it up with questions. We could give each other 7 minutes apiece. I don't care. But unless you have an example of how to do it better, please stop throwing bricks. Because I cannot make time magically appear. All I can do is manage it fairly. And that's what I am trying to do. So thank you very much. That is my time. And I conclude my remarks. The next scheduled Board of Education meeting, we have not put out an agenda yet, but there is a meeting that is tentatively scheduled for next week, which is Wednesday. That is a board study session on safety. Again, that's a board study session on safety. You should be seeing an agenda coming out relatively soon. And then we have a regular meeting on October 20th. With that, it's 10:10 and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.